What's good, folks? Family, friends, loved ones, enemies, frenemies, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, people of Middle-earth to another episode of Disguise Coverage, the only podcast that gives you an equal amount of blueberries in each muffin and is presented by the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. That is One Pie Pizza. Find the online menu in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on. I am your host, Anthony Prohaska. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro 2 underscores ANT. Find me on Blue Sky at proant. No underscores there, just PROANT. In this episode of Disguise Coverage, we will be diving into the 2025 cornerback class for the upcoming NFL draft, a class that has some real legitimate talent at the top and even going into day 2, maybe even a little bit into day 3. And that's important for this Buffalo Bills team as they have a glaring need at CB2. They have locked up Christian Benford long-term as their CB1, which looks very good right now given his play and the fact that he still is ascending and has an upwards trajectory in his career, which is nice to see. They traded away Kyer Elam. They brought back Dane Jackson, but there's questions at CB2 for the Bills, and maybe even depending on how you view Dane Jackson, maybe even questions at CB3, maybe CB4, depending on how you view Jamarcus Ingram. So the Bills definitely, at the very least, need a CB2, in my estimation, coming out of this draft. They could double dip and add to the overall corner depth and get yourself maybe potentially a solidified CB3 coming out as well. But that will come in the conversation that we have throughout this episode. And we had James Foster on the show last week. I have another guest next week to go over another specific position grouping of need for the Buffalo Bills. I wanted to have draft experts and people who really know ball and who know the game and scheme and structure and who know how to evaluate players. And I wanted to do that for this episode as well. But unfortunately, I couldn't find anybody that was good enough. So I found Russell Brown, who's kind of okay. You folks know
this show sucks, dude.
I was just going to introduce you as be like the Marty Jannetty of like drafts, but I didn't. No, you folks know it's tradition. Russ has been on the show. I can't even count how many times now between draft stuff and then the Bills playing the Lions over the years. But Russ does
the Lions.
Tremendous draft stuff for Fantasy Pros, covers the Lions for Lions Wire, legitimately one of the foremost ball knowers when it comes to just football in general, but especially draft time. Russ and I text all the time. We message all the time about football and wrestling and different things. Someone I'm very, happy to call my friend, but also somebody who legit knows his stuff. So I'm pumped to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Always fun, dude. And, when you're like, hey, I need somebody for the show, if the availability is there and I'm not sitting at a baseball diamond or, football or something that I got going on, it's always 100% yes. Cause there's just a natural, I don't know, podcast aura, chemistry, call it the Dudley boys. I don't know, the Jerry Lynn of the draft. I don't know if I love that.
That's a huge compliment to me. Jerry Lynn was sick.
It is.
Great worker. Tremendous worker. And him and RVD, like their matches, like their series in ECW were like one of like my favorite things in wrestling ever. Like the Living Dangerously one, like the first, oh man. Yeah.
I mean, I like it. It's a compliment, but
I would take it tremendously. It's better than Marty Jannetty.
Well, that's what you are. So
I'm
the Shawn Michaels of this show right now. Also, by the way, I got a WrestleMania shirt coming in the mail, and it's sick. It's Shawn Michaels jumping off the ladder on a Razor Ramon.
All from WrestleMania 10.
Dude, I can't wait to wear it on. I'm probably going to wear it both nights of WrestleMania. You want to know why? Because I'm just going to watch WrestleMania for like 48 hours straight.
That's fair.
It is a huge compliment, but
it is a huge compliment. Yeah, that's a sick shirt. I wish I didn't. I mean, if I didn't hate Shawn Michaels, I'd probably like him more. Yeah. He's a tremendous wrestler, but the person that he was, admittedly,
let the 90s go, dude.
I will never let it go. He was the reason Bret Hart bounced, and then Goldberg kicked him in the friggin' head, and it ruined his career. I will never forgive Shawn Michaels for being such a nice person.
Isn't that Goldberg's fault?
Yeah, it is Goldberg's fault, but Bret
wanted to start a wrestling podcast.
Oh man, I would never. It would be. I'd get into too many. Like, I'm able to keep myself like contained for like football conversations if somebody disagrees and things, but something as arbitrary as wrestling, man, I would just blow up. It would never work. I'd be so angry all the time with somebody. Even now, like even just having this conversation with you, like right now, I'm immediately like, screw Shawn Michaels. Like, he was such a jerk. Bret was going to do business on the way out. He just didn't want to do it to Shawn because Shawn wouldn't do it for him. And then
Anyways, back to the Bills. Great to be here. Happy to be back with my boys here at Cover One. By the way, your guys' film room stuff is lights out. I'm glad to see the dream come to fruition because I know that has been in the works and the grind has been real for a long time, and you guys deserve all of that. So I hope it continues to build, and I hope it leads to more down the road with just, beyond the Bills. I hope it leads to other players and so on and so forth, which I think is probably going to end up happening. So fingers crossed for my boys. Love you guys.
Thank you very much. I hope it does. That's pretty sweet. One last thing on wrestling. Charles says Cody or Cena. They both bore the absolute hell out of me in the ring, so I could not care less. But I can't stand Cody, so probably Cena, I guess. But I also can't stand Cena.
Let's go with Cody Rhodes dying in the ring and then coming back to life somehow with, a dire wolf that just got genetically processed.
I was going to say his dog comes to the ring and like resuscitates him. And then everybody, all the entire locker room and the entire arena all fill the ring and they lift Cody up to the heavens as this giant hero. And he springs back to life and fine. I just can't stand him.
One thing I could see happening, and I could see Cena winning, but I could also see Cody winning, and I could see Cody turning heel and joining with The Rock. And it's almost like a big swerve type thing because if Cody was a heel, it's a million times better.
Heel Cody, I remember seeing Cody on the Indies, like in the Ring of Honor shows when I was living in New York. Heel Cody was sweet. And even like him going up against Kenny in San Francisco when they did the G1 Super Show, like heel Cody is a good deal. I wanted him to turn heel in AEW. He just wouldn't. I think they give it to Cena, and I think you can tell a good story with it. But they both bore me in the ring. So that match is going to be so slow and horribly paced. I mean, am I going to watch it? Yeah, probably. But man,
I'm still excited for it. I mean, it's WrestleMania or WrestleMania, whatever you want to call it these days, But
Charles says he remembers Stardust. I like that.
Stardust. If there was anybody in this room that Stardust, it's definitely Anthony. 100%.
I mean, you paint your face all the time just to hang out and watch TV in your house. So if anyone's Stardust, I feel like it's more.
Dude, I'm the originator. I'm Gold Dust. Let's call it what it is, dude.
Gold Dust was Dustin Rhodes could work,
dude,
man.
He was awesome.
And it's crazy with how athletic Cody is, but he's just so slow and boring. We've gone horribly off topic.
Yes,
but I enjoy
7 minutes into this. Let's get
it. I also blame the chat a little bit. I like the chat to stoke this fire, but we digress. This corner class for the 2025 draft. Let's talk about it from a high level perspective. Your thoughts on it? Strengths, weaknesses, likes, dislikes, as you kind of finalize your draft board and your rankings and your guide and all that stuff. Like, what are your thoughts on this corner class in the 2025 NFL draft?
Yeah, I mean, I really like it, especially at the top, right? Like Colorado corner, Travis Hunter. I think he's a corner. I think you sprinkle him in as a wide receiver as much as you can. Obviously, I don't know if there's like going to be contract negotiations or input from agents and saying, hey, he's a receiver, because that's probably where he's going to get the most bang for his buck in today's market of the NFL. But if I'm looking at it as a coach, I know that I can sprinkle him in on my offense, but knowing that he can take away a quarter of the field, a third of the field in zone, or man up a guy and lock down, let's just say, Justin Jefferson for an entire game. Don't know if he's going to do it. I'm just predicting it. And if he's able to do that, and just like watching him, he's so natural and fluid in space, in his back pedal, in sitting, and then closing. Like, he's so good with that. So I think there's a huge value to him playing corner, and you can easily make him one of the highest paid defenders down the road. So obviously love him. I think he's going to be, 2 or 3 off the board when it's all said and done. But behind him, you got Will Johnson, you got Trey Amos, who I know we both love, and we're probably going to talk quite a bit about. Shavon Revel, Azareye'h Thomas, Jahdae Barron. So it gets pretty deep. And then I think there's a little bit of a fall off, but between Will Johnson and Benjamin Morrison, I do kind of want to start here with just these two guys as we talk like high level thoughts. I can't tell which prospect is like more forgotten about, right? Like I get why it's happening, but at the same time, like, it's kind of bizarre. Like, I do get neither player has been healthy the last like 12 to 18 months. But the coverage ability for like Johnson and the ball skills that he had in 2023, it's top tier. It's like next level stuff, And the same with Morrison. Like, he's got great ball skills, super productive for Notre Dame, but he's been really banged up. Yeah. And yes, Rick Rude, goat heel. Absolutely love the trunks, by the way, when he wears them. He's spinning the hips and the whole nine.
Ladies love it.
Yeah, exactly. But Benjamin Morrison, he dealt with hip and ankle surgeries
Yeah.
the last like 12 to 18 months. And, lower body ailment injuries really are concerning. So I get why like they're falling a little bit. And like I've heard some stuff with like Will Johnson, like not overly physical, doesn't want to tackle. I think part of that was the shoulder.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at just coverage guys, and guys are going to get, turnovers and create for the opposition, for your offense, there might not be two better players in this class. So I really like them. They're both probably top 40, top 50 picks for sure, but it just feels like they've been forgotten about a little bit. And like when you get through mock drafts, it's like, oh, Will Johnson's at 15. It's like, wait a minute. Will Johnson was like a top 5 pick going into the year. Now he's 15th, So overall, I mean, I don't want to steal the thunder of every single player, but I do like this corner class. And like for example, Jahdae Barron, the more I watch, the more I like his game. It's just like you watch him the first 3-4 games and it's like, yeah, he's really good. I got to see the rest of the class. And then I go back and watch Barron again. And I'm like, man, it's so easy to see his game translate to success in the NFL as a defender. I think he's probably more like that buzz safety nickel type guy, even though he did play on the perimeter this past year. But like I watch him and I'm like, man, he kind of has like that Brian Branch-esque to him. And I look at him and I'm like, the way he buzzes down, the way he closes on the football, I think considering if a defense was to consider him as a player to take away the seams, hook curl, those zones, the crossers, I think like a team like Arizona, Jonathan Gannon would love to have him. He's already got Budda Baker, but you add a guy like Jahdae Barron there, man, does that
Barron and Makuba, like my two dream destinations for like those Texas DBs, are both to go to Arizona with what they do with their 3 safety looks. And just what they do with like Garrett Williams from the slot, but also safety, like Barron or Makuba could be so sweet in that defense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I know we're not talking safeties, but Makuba to me is one of the top 50 best players in this draft. A little thin, right? Like thin lower half, a little wiry.
Yeah.
But man, does he make some plays. He comes up with the football sometimes, and it's like, where did you come from? And like there's times where I'm like, is he Tracy Walker or is he more, or is he more like Jesse Bates? You know what I mean? Like what type of safety is he? He's maybe not as physical as Walker, but he's kind of got that wiry frame as he did. But yeah, I love the DB class. I really like the safety class. I know we're talking corners, so I'll keep it there, but I like this class overall. I'm excited to talk, more about round 1 guys, round 2, and so on.
Oh, a lot to unpack there. And
sorry, guys.
No, you're good. I'm trying to figure out where I want to start. I echo your sentiments on liking this corner class, especially at the top. Like to have 3 picks in the top 62, like the Bills do, round 1 pick at 30, and then pick 56 and 62. To need a corner 2 like the Bills do, I think it slots very well. Like you have a shot to take a real legitimate one at 30, or depending on how things fall for you in round 2, you could get one there. And I think depending on how people tier out their corners, I just think like tier 1 through, depending on how you tier it out, like tier 4, tier 5 gives you like legitimate like CB2 value. The higher you go, obviously some guys can turn into actual CB1s. And for me, I do want to start with Johnson and Barron. Johnson, I think, and that's such a great point about not really him and Morrison, but especially Johnson, and I feel like Johnson is one of several guys in this draft who it's like, oh man, his 2023 tape was better than his 2024 tape. And the tackling was my biggest disappointment with him this year. Like seeing his size and frame and knowing the defense that he plays in and the school that he plays for, I just assumed, and again, how he played in 2023, I just figured sound tackler. And there were times where he's grasping at air or he's getting run through. Like receivers are going through him. Backs are going through him. And he's just more of the nail than he is the hammer. And to your point, I don't know if it's injury. I don't know if it's like we won the Natty last year. We're not winning it this year. I don't feel good. I want to get to the NFL. And I know that might be right. Yeah. And I don't want to put that out there because I have no idea. But I think that's very like a real thing. Yeah. And I don't know. That happens with dudes. Like some guys are just ready to be like, man, we're not going to the playoffs this year. This sucks. I kind of don't want to do this anymore. Or if your shoulder hurts, but you're undefeated and you're going to the playoffs, it hurts a lot less than if you're like, 5-5 and you're in the bottom of the Big Ten or whatever. Like, it just, and so I don't know if he turned off a little bit, but the coverage instincts and I'm very careful to use the word instinct because I feel like that gets used as a cure-all too much. I don't know if it's instinct. I don't know if it's him diagnosing or just the tape study, but you watch him, and several people have talked about it. Even just going back to the 2024 tape, that interception against USC, he's trapping the slot. Like, you see him sit and squat, and he lets number 1 go by him, and he just jumps the out from number 2 with like that little hitch, houses it. The ball skills, the anticipation, the size, the coverage ability. He's just so built to be just such a solid, sound corner in the NFL. Like, I really do think it's unfair to him that he's coming out in this draft because I feel like he's a corner 1 in a lot of years. It's just that he's in a draft with Travis Hunter. I do think his floor for me is like low end CB2. I think Will Johnson just provides you a lot of quality reps. And with Johnson and Barron specifically, because I think, people may have them ranked differently, but Barron's really exploded on to the scene with the year that he had, winning the awards that he did, having the combine that he had. Do you see a scenario where either Will Johnson or Jahdae Barron fall to 30, or I don't think Johnson will, but fall to 30, or if either of them fall close enough for the Bills, if they wanted to potentially trade up and acquire one of them? Like, do you see either of them falling into, I don't know, the early to mid 20s, like the 20 to 23 range, something like that?
I think Will Johnson possibly could.
Interesting. Okay.
Because
so you think Johnson has a higher chance of falling than Barron?
I do, because not saying of things like I've heard, but like there is some legitimate injury stuff there, right? Like, we talk about the shoulder, but he did have a hamstring. He tore ligaments in his toe. He had toe surgery, which is why he didn't run. And it was just like the injuries have been like one right after the other. And it's like whenever a team has an opportunity or wants to get an opportunity to get a little bit of a closer look on him, he is not MIA, but just unavailable. And like that stands out to scouts and departments and things like that. So like when I look at him, I'm like, yeah, he could certainly go, 11 to San Francisco. He makes a ton of sense for Chicago if they want to upgrade. But like, you look at Atlanta at 15. Atlanta has 5 picks. And I actually wrote about this on the Lions Wire today. Like, the Lions.
Oh, we were talking about the Lions when we were texting last week or whatever, talking about what they were going to do.
Yeah, like Atlanta's in a prime spot to trade back, whether it's to 30 or to 28. Like, according to the trade value chart, Atlanta's pick is it's worth 1,050 points. Well, if the Lions gave up a first this year, a third this year, so 28, 102, and I'm just putting the Lions as an example for Bills fans. You can scheme it however you want, but the Lions have 28, they take 102, and then they take a second next year. That gives them 1052 in the total points. So it's like damn near identical to what they need it to be. And it's like, if let's say I'm not saying the Lions like Will Johnson, but if there's a defensive end or whatever, or if there's a player like Will Johnson for the Bills, they might get antsy and say, hey, we're going up and getting this guy. He's going to get healthy for us. We're going to do a lot more, zone with him or whatever we're going to do. We're going to take some of the physicality away from him and just let him cover for us. And we'll let everybody else run the alley and fill and do those things and be the perimeter tackler that we want him to be. So
that's fair.
I could see Will fall into the 15 range to 18, 19, maybe 21 to Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh, they don't have a second round pick. And maybe they feel like, hey, we could move back and still get Dart or Milroe. Who knows? It sounds weird. It sounds really weird to trade back and still get a quarterback, but crazier things have happened. I just look at Barrett and I'm like, Miami, Indy, Arizona. Like, it's just hard for me to say that he doesn't go to one of those spots, because like if Arizona has any concern with the injury history of Will Johnson, they're going to look at Jahdae Barron and go, that he's clean as a whistle. There's no health concerns whatsoever. And he's more physical. He's more versatile. He could play outside. That fits us a little bit better. So I think that's why Barron would maybe go a little bit before Will Johnson.
Interesting. I'm so torn on. So I think like the idea of Johnson falling is very legitimate with the things you mentioned, right? And you add in maybe like the 2024 tape wasn't great. And maybe if teams are doing the player interviews, maybe like, this is all, I am completely speculating. I don't want anybody to say like, oh, did you hear this? Or like, why do you think this? Maybe he doesn't interview great. Maybe people think like, oh, he did turn off in 2024 and we don't like that. And then if you add that up with the injury things, maybe it's like, well, he doesn't take care of his body, or maybe things unravel. I don't know. But just even off of what you said alone, I think there is a shot that Johnson can fall. I think it's really interesting to see which one falls more, which one goes before the other, because for so long, I just thought Will Johnson was like the easy plug-in CB2. Like for everyone's, I avoid everyone's rankings until I've completed my own. The most I talk rankings with anyone
Is me.
is purely, yes, it's purely you. And that's it. Just because like I'll look at somebody and I'll ask you questions and we just talk ball. Like I literally avoid anything and everything. I avoid your guide. I avoid your tweets. I avoid everyone. I put my head in the sand. But I just assumed Hunter 1, Johnson 2, done and dusted. Boom. But then I was like, okay, Johnson could fall like a little bit. There's a chance. Barron, I like so much, but as you already like alluded to and mentioned, I wonder, my thought is he could fall a bit more. You could make the case that he could fall, and I'm speaking on both sides of my mouth here, that he could fall, past Johnson or be picked ahead of him because of the versatility. And I wonder, do teams see that as a boon and be like, oh, we want to use this guy? The Brian Branch comp is tremendous. Do we want to use him as this apex player, dime linebacker, hook curl defender, like spinner type of role who can cover tight ends and do all this stuff? Or do teams view him as a true outside corner? And then going from there, which one fits better for most of the teams? I feel like having that type of versatile role narrows the scope of what teams could grab him. Where if he's just a true outside corner, it increases the odds that, because a corner's a corner. Yes, certain teams have archetypes and benchmarks that they like to hit, but a corner's a corner, will take a guy. Whereas Barron, I feel like, do teams need that type of role? Do they want that type of role? And if they're not viewing him as an outside corner, then he could fall further. And I just think that's such an interesting question, because for me, I've got Barron as CB3 and Johnson as CB2. And as we've gotten closer, I'm just like, could Barron go ahead? Could Barron fall into the 20s? Could Johnson fall into the 20s? And there's all these like different questions of like who falls and why based on how the board falls and how these guys are viewed.
Yeah, I guess the big question to that is just like, all right, if Johnson and Barron aren't going there, what's going in front of them? Like, we're not going to see a run on quarterbacks. We know that there's maybe 2 in the top 10, and Shedeur, if he doesn't go to the Giants at 3, where's he going? Is it the Saints? And if not, all right, now he's falling, and now we only have 1 quarterback. We're going to see a push for offensive tackles, I think. Fair. I think we're going to see both tight ends go within the top 20.
Yes.
Maybe
do we get, so if we're playing the Bills, say the Bills are at 30, do we get 2 running backs in the top 28? Do we get Genty and Hampton?
It's possible. I mean, and if it's not Hampton, is it Judkins? I mean, there seems to be like that late buzz for him.
How many receivers do we get?
That's the big question. Like, how many receivers do we get? Because I think the corners will start going at some point, and then it's like, all right, now the Bills, if they want their guy, they're going to have to make that move. Because I'm fully set the Bills are taking a corner. Like, I could be wrong. I haven't heard anything or whatever, but like just looking at the way teams have constructed the rosters and have attacked free agency. I know they brought back Benford and it gave him the extension and all that, but like this is a team that needs to get another corner.
The only way the Bills don't go corner at 30 is if there's just like a run where like 6 corners go in the top 29, and that means like, Derek Harmon fell, or some edge we really like fell, or Malachi Starks fell because of that. Like there's got to be some run on corner that prevents them from taking a corner.
Yeah,
because somebody of great value at some other spot fell.
Exactly. But this is, like you said, they got 2 second-round picks.
Yep.
It's easy for them to piece 30 and 56, 30 and 62, and get up to, let's just say Minnesota, for example, at 24. They have 4 picks in this draft. Like the cupboard is bare there, and they need help defensively too. But they could move back to 30. They could take Maxwell, Hairston at 30, and Buffalo goes up and gets Trey Amos. They get Jahdae Barron, Will Johnson. I mean, I look at Will Johnson. Does he get past Harbaugh and the Chargers? Does he get past Seattle and their coach, who was the defensive coordinator at Michigan, years over, 2-3 years ago?
Oh, yeah, McDonald, yeah.
So, like, Will Johnson and him might have some rapport. So it's just hard for me to say, like, Will Johnson's going to get past 22. Again, I see him slipping, but I look at these teams in the teens, and I just, how do they pass on these talented guys? Like you said, CB2, CB3, these are top 15, top 16 players in the draft. In a draft that I don't think is very good overall. I think it's a good corner draft, but I don't think it's a good draft overall. So I think teams are going to kind of force their hand and just take that best player, best corner, best defender on the board at that time.
Oh man, draft chess. Exactly. Starts Tuesday, April. Yeah, you're just that's why I think what makes this first round really interesting, because there's no, okay, you know, this team is taking this guy. Okay, you know, this wide receiver class is crazy, so we know like these receivers are going or whatever. Like there's so many. I mean, where is it? Charles put, you said not including Travis Hunter, like over under 2.5 wide receivers in the first. You could play this game with like offensive line, edge, defensive tackle, like safety. Like there's so many
quarterback.
Yes, questions and variables at all these positions. There's a lot of unknown that I think makes round one pretty exciting. And then obviously has a huge domino effect for what happens going to the Bills at 30. And I think from a corner perspective, yeah, kind of putting the class into frame, and then Barron and Johnson, or Johnson and Barron, however anybody has them viewed, kind of starts that first tier. I think Hunter, you know, he's got his tier. Johnson, maybe for some, is also in that tier, but I think those three comprise that. And then you start to have that trickle down to that conversation piece. And who knows, maybe if some guys aren't getting injured this past year, maybe that top three looks a little different. Maybe it still does for teams. Who knows? But Russ, let's pivot here. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to, we're going to pivot. I was just going to add, like, I think right now, 16 days out, it's the big overthought process. And like, it's all going to just fall right back into the general place that we thought it was months ago. Like Luther Burden's going to go in the first round. Tet McMillan's going in the first round. Emeka Ibuke is going to go in the first round. Shador Sanders going three or 9, you know, and then maybe Dart or Milrose, a late dart, no pun intended, in the back end of the first round, you know, and like, it's just all going to be exactly what we thought. And that's why I feel like kind of good about the way that my board has been set up. Cause I'm like, dude, I might be hitting this thing nail on the head. Like just the way that it's, and I'm not doing it on purpose. It's just the way the grades fell. And I'm like, this might turn out to be pretty good, but we can pivot like friends.
Pivot. I love that pivot. Carrying the couch up the stairs. That's happened to me in New York apartments. I sympathize and empathize so much with that scene, man. And then to get my couch in my one apartment, we had to take the door off the hinges, and like it was magnetic locks and this super heavy door. Oh man, yeah, I empathize with that. All right, so round one, corner targets for the Bills, as we talked about in the intro and kind of opening thoughts segment of this episode. The Bills have pick 30 in round one. So what Russ and I are going to do is discuss some players that if we, were the Bills, we would take there, or we think the Bills should target or take at pick 30. We try to keep it each between like 1 and 3 players. I don't know Russ's answer. He doesn't know mine. We don't know that for the entirety of this episode. We could have the exact same guy or guys picked. Who knows? But this is all based on the odds of this, this player or players being available at pick 30, their individual skill sets, their traits, then tying into our evaluations of them, their scheme fit with the Bills, how all that coalesces into one. Russ, what do you got for, round one corner targets, or target, depending on how you got it laid out?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably talk about 2 guys in specific. I'll talk about one, turn it back over to you. If you got a guy, I don't want to steal the thunder here. But looking at Barron and Johnson, I think we kind of made our point. Like, these are probably guys they trade up for. We don't think they're going to fall there to 30. But one guy I think that's going to be there, and I'm just really intrigued by him because, like, I want to love his game, but then I don't love his game, but I still like his game. Like, it's very, like, kind of like what's the wind blowing? This is how I feel about him. But it's Shavon Revel, from East Carolina. Like, okay. I think he's really intriguing. I think you're not reaching for him at 30 because I don't think you're going to get him at 56 or 62 or whatever those second round picks are. He's the 38th overall player on my board. And so some people might say that's a reach, but to me,
what is he corner for you? Corner 4, 3, 5?
Let me scroll. I should just pull up his scouting report, which is what I'm doing.
I love that you went first, because what I did is I scrolled to where he is for my evaluation, so that way I could speak on him and I didn't have to do the live scrolling like you had to do right now.
Yeah. Well, I should have wrote it down because I wrote him out as, what my answer was, but he's CB6 for me. So I got 5 corners ranked ahead of him. Kind of tells people where I'm at with the corner class. Like, I've got 6 or 7 in the top 40. So I like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's just like, if he's not going to be available in the second round. Like there's just no way. Like his tape in 2023 was really solid.
I feel like he doesn't get past like 40. Like early 2 is like the floor for where he goes.
Right. Like you look at the Raiders at 36, 37. I just did a radio show in California, and it's like a bunch of I know radio Russ
on the radio.
But no,
West Coast time, changing time zones. Sorry. Marty Jannetty on the radio. Look at me.
XO.
Dear,
I'm surprised we didn't reference that yet. But which, by the way, if anybody wants to know, me and Anthony will randomly text each other during the week and just quote Joe Dirt randomly, just 15 lines or rip them out and move on with our day. And it brightens my day. It genuinely does. Like I'll have a crap day and I'll be like, XO. But anyways, my wife's hearing that. She's going to be really mad at me. Where this is off the rails. This is maybe the worst show we've done. This I am not professional.
You know what's funny? It's there's going to be so much good like evaluation talk mixed into all this, and there's going to be people who are going to tune in and see like Joe Dirt and wrestling quotes and be like, "Oh, there's no football talk here." And it's like, no, you're going to miss out on so much.
Yeah. No, but like I said, he's not going to be available. I think the Raiders have picked 37. He would make a lot of sense for them. They need a corner, so if they get Genty and then him, but like with him, he's a physical corner. Don't put up.
No, I'm just pulling up comments, and you don't have to just keep reading.
Sorry, I saw Darien Strong, and I'm gonna get mad.
I'm just bringing up comments that are thoughtful from the chat and what people like. You don't have to stop. Keep going.
We're good. But Revel is a physical corner with some really great length. In my scouting report, I summarized him as a player that is a well-rounded defender that suffocates the opposition, because that's what it feels like. Like there's potential for him to be an impactful starter like right away if he's healthy, and that's like we're assuming if he's healthy. I like when he's using his trail technique and coverage. He just like seems to be in like that best position possible to make a play whenever he's doing it. Like he just undercuts those throws and picks off the quarterback left and right or breaks up the pass. But I love the way he can play press man. He'll turn and cover up receivers like a blanket. It's impressive. He looks a bit tight in the hips. We've talked about this, like when he turns and pushes vertically, just like really high cut. But it's hard to deny a player that's 6'2", 194, almost 33-inch arms. Like he's got almost longer arms than Will Campbell, which again, I think Campbell's a tackle. I'm not going to go down that road. But yeah, I like Revel. I really do. I think he's a guy that can be a starter, and I think it's perfect to pair him up with like a player like Benford. I think they would complement each other really well. So if I had to start with a guy, that would be the player I would start with at 30.
Fair. No surprise, I have someone ahead of him, but I'll talk about him first just so we can make this seamless. So I do a lot of digging on name pronunciation. I've heard that the H in his first name is a lie. I've heard that his name is Shavon Revel.
I'm going to say Shavon every time.
I thought it was Shavon Revel. So I'm going to go with Shavon. I'm not even going to say the first name, but it's Shavon Revel, apparently. I'm going to keep going with Revel on the back end. Just throwing that out there. I'd like him. And I do. I do like him. I want to preface what I'm about to say by saying that. The thing that bothers me, and you and I talked about it a bit, and you alluded to it, and this isn't just for corner, but really any position where you need kind of flexibility, which is kind of all of them. Guys that are high cut scare me. So, and for those who don't know what high cut means, like shorter torso, so high cut, like long legs, shorter type of torso. And because he's high cut, he just plays kind of high in his movements, like high in his pedal. When he's trying to drive on the ball, there's not a lot of hip sync. He has to do it with his feet. There's a good play. I forget who it's against. Maybe SMU. Maybe it's from 2024 where someone runs like a deep comeback on him, and it takes him a second to get out of his like pedal and drive on the ball. But then the quarterback's a little late, and that plus his stride and his speed and his arm length allows him to get a PBU like towards the sideline. You just see the length and the speed and the stride show up kind of immediately. And I think his benefit is that length and that overall size. Just kind of going through my notes. So I wrote the initial, the negative, high cut, high in his back pedal. When he's in bail, he doesn't sink his hips to drive on the ball. When he drives, it's due mainly to footwork, and he has good feet. He's got the length and the feet to play press. He likes to go with a two-hand jam, which I hate because two-hand jams can lock your hips, especially for a dude that's high cut. It's even worse.
Yeah, right.
Yep, even worse. And then I wrote a whole bunch of slashes here. Like I wrote being high cut / longer legs / also maybe some hip stiffness will make him vulnerable when going with soft shoe press or mirroring. I think in order to be like a press corner, he needs to be a true press jam type of corner. I don't think he has the lower body build to be a mirror match type of dude in that spot off the release. I like that he's a willing tackler, very willing in run support. He's sound as a blitzer, sound in his run fits. He brings his body and he wraps up. I like that physical aspect. So you see it in coverage. You see it against the run. Good recovery speed, ability to close and run down versus the pass and the run when he opens it up. Really good long stride. That I think the pick six against App State this year really shows it. Dude runs the over.
That was the one I talked about. Yeah.
Yep. And he's just chilling in trail and waits for the ball to get thrown. Is like, there it is. And like sprints, picks it, houses it. Like you can just tell. Yeah. He's coasting and baiting. And then because he does have speed, but the stride with it, like when he really gets going, you'll watch him chase guys down from the opposite sideline because it's that speed plus that stride. Like it's really nice. A lot of cover 3 for him at East Carolina, and then just single coverage in general, whether it was man or, that single side on cover 3. Also, East Carolina played a bunch of cover 3 cloud, which I think is cool. Like not cover 2, actual cover 3 cloud, which you don't see a ton. So you'll see him get work as a cloud corner. He's got a good feel for zone underneath, and that tackling ability does play. He's got the speed and stride to stay in phase. This is one for me too. That's kind of a negative mix with a positive. The speed and the stride to stay in phase on go balls, but he can be better locating the ball downfield and making plays on it. For a guy that's in phase as much as he is downfield, the ball tracking and or plays on the ball could improve. Good press man corner, left or right side, field or boundary, does not matter. I also like how he uses the boundary as a defender, as a help defender to squeeze wide receivers in their stem. You will see him turn, and when he does try to locate the football, and then he's just gently nudging that guy towards the sideline, squeezing that space, suffocating him a little bit. I like what he does in terms of just being an overall like airspace constrictor, restrictor. He's old. I do like him. I have to finalize what my corner rankings are after the top 3. Well, after kind of my top 4. I know who my CB4 is, which I'll talk about him next after you go. But I would have.
We're talking about the same guy.
Fair. I would have, which is like kind of why I flipped it. I would have no problem with Revel being the guy at 30. And to your point, I think if they do go with a lot of these corners we're talking about, none of these guys that we're talking about for 30 are going to be there at 56 or 62. Correct. Like they're not. Like then you're playing a whole different game, which we're going to talk about as we get into the next segment. But yeah, I would have no problem there. I do have personal worries and some questions because of the high cut. And I just think also too, like because he's high cut, you can see guys create separation against him on their release, but also on their breaks because he doesn't have that ability to close that space right away off the break. But he can recover and make up ground and mitigate that because he's got a long stride, long arms, and he's fast. But that stiffness not stiffness, that, and like you said, there is some stiffness there, but it's more just that high cut and how it doesn't allow him the bend and flexibility that I normally like, but he can mitigate it, even though it does, create some separation issues and then some of the ball tracking downfield. But I mean, this is the dude who's built like a prototypical CB1. And I think he can, his ceiling is to be like a CB1 in this league.
Dude, if the Legion of Doom was still a thing,
God.
He's going to Seattle all day long at 18. Like, but it's not. I mean, he could still go there, I guess. I mean, you never know. There's always surprises. But since he didn't test, just to kind of give people at home an idea of like where he tested as a track and field guy. He ran it in high school. His PR in the 55-meter dash. I couldn't find it for the 100-meter dash, but for the 55-meter dash, it was 6.9 seconds. So not overly fast, but you add a extra 15 yards. That's obviously going to add a little bit to his time. So probably, if I had to guess, probably in that sub 4.5 range, just guessing, but I could be wrong there.
Yeah, I feel like he's like a 4.47.
Yeah, right.
4.8 somewhere.
Yeah. And he had like an interesting journey too. Like he was a JUCO kid. He went to Lewisburg College in North Carolina after high school. The whole season got canceled because of COVID. So he'll be a little bit older, 23 years old. There's other corners that are certainly younger, but I couldn't agree more with, a lot of your evaluation there. And I think he's a guy that, again, there's some concerns, but I think if he was to go to a place that maybe irons out those concerns, I think maybe that is Buffalo, just simply because of how well versed they are at developing some of this defensive talent. So
Yeah. And again, he's in the mold. Everything for me for a corner in this draft is I want guys, and I've said this throughout, actually, I should have said this earlier, but I've said it throughout the offseason so much. The guys I'm looking for are airspace constrictors or restrictors, guys that just squeeze windows and squeeze air. And they could do it in a variety of ways. You have great anticipation or route recognition, the ability to like have a quick trigger or short area burst, or an ideal for me, it's some of that mixed with, I want guys who can play press. And I want guys who can stay in phase and stay in the hip pocketed dudes, but not to the point where they're unable to play zone and they're unable to function in that world in terms of passing off and collecting and reading route distributions and concepts and all of that. And yeah, Revel is definitely in that mold. Would have no qualms with him at 30. Who else you got for CB target for the Bills in round 1?
I'm going to go with my CB4. I'm not going to steal potentially your CB3 or 4. Because I know who you want to talk about, and I'm going to let you talk about him. And maybe I'll piggyback a little bit off of it. But I'll say Azareye'h Thomas from Florida State. I've kind of
wait. So Thomas is your CB who then?
CB4, 30th.
Thomas,
oddly enough, 30th overall player.
Okay.
And like I kind of joked when they made some moves like in the offseason with the corners and stuff like that. I'm like, Azareye'h Thomas, you better get on Realtor and look in Buffalo. Like, get used to it. Like, he just kind of screams Buffalo. But the player you're going to talk about next is who I would love to see them get. But I think Thomas is somebody that's easy to fall in love with when you look at his tape, especially the last 2 seasons. Deflected 14 passes, recorded an interception. There's a play against Notre Dame where he makes this incredibly acrobatic.
On the Notre Dame's offense is going from right to left, and he's on the top sideline, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yep, on the top of the screen. And he's in the wrong spot. You know, he kind of drifts, but he just somehow makes a play on this football and he breaks it up. 32 and 3/8 inch arm, 6'1", 197, ran a 4.56 40. So I think there's some press man concerns. The long speed's certainly going to get tested vertically. Form tackling needs improvements. He tends to kind of arm tackle or leave his feet too soon or drop to that knee. And I don't know if he's trying to hawk tackle or whatever he's trying to do, but it gets a little interesting and dicey for him on the perimeter. And then obviously, as a physical guy, he is a physical defender. He does get a little too grabby, but yes. I think he does have the body control and the desired play strength to jam receivers and knock them back, especially in the run game. So like if you got a, design screen or something his way, he's going to try to blow it up, but he might not always make the tackle. So he's going to disrupt the play, especially like at the point against trips. But at the same time, he might not necessarily secure that tackle. So just make sure you have support, safety help, things like that, especially like over the top. If he's playing, press man or something, you'll definitely maybe want to have a cover 2 or something with help over the top. But I love the length, the way he can jam and redirect. He keeps his head on a swivel, locates the football really well, disruptive at the catch point. Like I mentioned, good body control, shows good lateral quickness on short and intermediate routes. I think there's some hesitation overall within his game, though. Like there's times like in zone where he's hesitating a little bit, or in tackling when he's there, he's hesitating. But again, overall, I think there's the desired skill to be a press man corner, just even if off man, I think he closes relatively well to the football. So whether it's zone, off man, little press man, there's things that's going to get him tested. But if you can bring him in and kind of redefine his skill set and get him wired right, this is a guy that will turn 21 years old in July. His older brother plays for the Dallas Cowboys. He's safety, pretty much a practice squad guy. But I think this is a guy that is experienced, 36 games, only 13 starts. So still, like I mentioned, rough around the edges, but you're not going to get him in the second round. You're going to have to take him here at 30.
See, he's a good one who actually, hold on, before I piggyback on that, I want to answer this from Claude. I was going to type it in the chat, but I thought it was good. Claude says, Ant, are most of the best CBs high cut? He says Prime, Surtain, Sauce, and Revis. So, well, I wouldn't necessarily classify Prime as like high cut or Surtain or Revis. Sauce a little bit, but it's more of you can be high cut, but still have hip sync or
fast feet.
Yeah. Or fast feet. Like there's different ways to mitigate it. And I think my thing with Revel is he's high cut. And also there's not a lot of like bend or dip or sink in that lower body. So you can be high cut or have longer legs, but still have that flexibility and fluidity in your lower body. Like Surtain has that. Revis, I wouldn't classify as high cut. He's more just kind of an evenly proportioned type of dude. Sauce, I think is fair. Like Sauce is more of a high cut guy, long legs, long arms. But again, he's a good example of you can be high cut and still be kind of a lockdown dude. And you just do it in different ways and use your strengths to mitigate some of your areas of opportunity, which again, I think Revel can. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily classify Surtain and Revis as high cut or Prime. And Prime was just such an amazing athlete from a flexibility standpoint, a speed standpoint. He could mitigate so many things. But really good question, Claude. I like where your head's at. That's a good question. So for me with Thomas annoys the hell out of me because and you alluded to it at the end here, he's a guy I would much prefer at 56 or 62. I don't think he'll be there. So like at 30 for me, again, I have to solidify my rankings. He's not in my top 5, but he's a guy who I wouldn't be disappointed if they took at 30, but someone who I think is better suited to go like 35 to 50. And I think that's where he'll go. And you're not going to get him at 56. Like if there's a world where, again, there's a run on corners or something, I don't know, anything happens and someone in another spot falls, and then you end up with Thomas at 56 or 62, I think like that gets me excited because that means you probably got a great value at 30. Yeah. Like someone fell at some other spot of need. So I wouldn't hate the idea of Thomas at 30. I do have him pegged as more of like a second round type of dude. But again, you're taking second round dudes at the back end of round 1 and rankings are different, so on and so forth. To your point, your evaluation, I agree with actually a good chunk of it. It's so funny too. Like that's what makes like evaluation so fun. Like so many of the things that you said, pretty much all of it, I agree with like all of it, and I have it. But then like you have him as your CB4 and I don't. And it's just so funny to like it in a good way. Like it's just, that's what makes these conversations so fun, especially with someone whose evaluation and voice I trust like yours. But he's another dude in the vein that we talked about kind of with Revel. Length, size. But what's nice with Thomas, the fluidity for that size. He's got good flexibility in the body. Like you look at him and he's another guy when I initially saw the measurements, 6'1.5", which is 84th percentile for height, 197 pounds, which is 47th percentile for weight. So you're looking at a dude who's like 6'1", 200. Like that's a big corner. And so anytime I see those dudes, I'm like, okay, how stiff is he going to be? And he's not. Like it's just good fluidity. Willing tackler, not the most sound or the most physical type of tackler, which I would like considering he's bigger. But if the trade-off is a little worse of a tackler for being more fluid with the size, I think that's a fair trade-off. I think he's got a really good trail technique when in man. I like him at the collision point. He'll create a collision point in trail, and then he can ride the hip, and he has the athleticism and the fluidity to stay in phase. I do think he can be better in staying connected on breaks with wide receivers. Guys will get away from him a little bit, so kind of staying in phase on breaks is something I would like to see him get better at. I think he's at his best when getting hands on wide receivers early in their stem. I want to see him use his length and frame and body to obstruct receivers as much as he can. Again, you've got that length and size and frame and fluidity and athleticism. But to your point, you talk about his experience and some of like the growing that he still can do. I think he's somebody that is, and I don't want to say this in a bad way because I feel like people hear it and they think, oh, that sucks. I think he is more project than like immediate impact, but I think he's a guy that you could take at 30. He battles, maybe wins your CB2, and then you're sitting here maybe next year or 2 years from now having the conversation of like, oh, man, that was a really great pick because of what he turned into and what he blossomed into. I do think he's a little grabby at points, like you mentioned, but again, that's something that I think anytime you're a press corner and you're bigger, you're going to have some grabbiness issues. And I think it's just a matter of, can you clean it up? Can your coaches help you clean that up? But yeah, he's somebody who I have tabbed more for the second, but I can understand very much if the Bills, or even if someone else took him at the end of round 1 or even early in round 2, the length plays, the athleticism and the fluidity plays, and he makes some really great plays on the ball like you talked about.
Yeah, I think the only thing that really, I don't want to say saved him in my evaluation, was just like Revel is coming off the torn ACL, and I like have that concern. And then we mentioned the high cut stuff. So it was like, well, once I got to the next kind of tier, because once I got through Barron and Amos, and I actually might not have this numbered right. I might have jacked it up. He might actually be my CB5 now that I think about it. Because I have it's Amos. So
Thank you. So that's who I'm about to talk about. That's who I thought you had as CB4 at first.
Yeah, I have it marked wrong. I have Barron as 3, and good thing we caught this. Yeah. Yeah, I'm an idiot. That's on me.
Well, yeah,
He's
you're
my
super dumb.
CB5. So whatever. Apples to
Okay.
oranges, whatever.
And so that actually kind of aligns the way mine is shaking out right now. I've got Hunter, Johnson, Barron, Amos at 4, Revel at 5, and then 6 through like 11 is a dogfight for me, and I can't figure out how to solidify it. But Thomas could be 6, Hairston could be 6. There's a lot of that. That's fair. Oh, interesting. So do you want to keep talking about Thomas? You want to talk about Amos?
Well, I was going to throw up a kind of a scenario for you
Ooh,
and
like
kind of
that.
get the chat thinking or get you thinking.
Like
You let's say you pass on the corner at 30 and hypothetical, he's, Thomas is sitting there at 46. Atlanta's got pick 46. We just talked about not a lot of draft capital, things like that. I don't know if you would have to part ways with 56 and 62, but what if you parted with like 56 and I don't know,
a round 4 pick?
Yeah, 109 and something next year. Maybe I'm giving up way too much. I don't have the trade value chart in front of me, but you give up that to get up to 46 and you take an Azareye'h Thomas. Would you be okay with that depending on who they took at 30?
Yeah, I would be okay with that. Like, I think that gets you your CB2 who fits what you want schematically and has the traits and the tools that you would like. And again, my thought is there, if you're doing that, that means you probably ended up with, that means at 30, you probably went with Derek Harmon or Darius Alexander or Tyreek Williams, like some sweet defensive tackle, or Malachi Starks, or
dude, if Malachi Starks is at 30 and he doesn't go at 28, I'm driving to Buffalo. I'm gonna be mad. I'm gonna be really mad.
Like that to me would mean like somebody sick fell, and I'm okay kind of pulling that trigger. And again, I think that's a fair spot. I don't think, again, I don't have the chart in front of me, but I would think like if they moved up from like 56 to that Falcons pick, maybe it costs you. I really think they could do that for like a 4th this year. They have so many they have multiple 4s, they have multiple 5s. Like maybe it costs you 4 and 5. You're only not moving up too many spots. I wouldn't hate that type of deal.
Yeah, it would definitely get done. Because pick 46 is 440 on the trade value chart as far as points. Buffalo 2nd round pick at 56 is 340. If you added in pick 109, that's 76 points. You might have to give up a 4th next year, or I guess you could give up an additional 4th this year as well. I don't know. They've got so much capital. Like they would be okay, I think, with whatever they decided to do.
And that's my thought. Like, they have so much day 3 capital. Like, I don't mind. Again, and I'm sure most teams would say this. Like, I have no problem cashing in some of my day 3 chips to get more day 2 chips. It's just harder in terms of, that's like trying to trade all like the crap on your bench in fantasy for like a starter on someone else's. It's like, I don't want your backup tight end and your 2 backup running backs for my star receiver. But in the trade value world, who knows? So now do you want to talk about another guy here in round 1?
Well, I don't know. Did you want to talk about him, or you want me to talk about him?
Well, you can lead with I'm 1,000% talking about Trey Amos, regardless of if you talk about him or not. But you're the guest, so you could 1,000% go first.
All right. Well, the next guy, and I'll move on from round 1, guys. But Trey Amos, to me, I don't know if he's going to even be there at 30. I think 23.
It's crazy that we've gotten to this spot where, not to interrupt you, but I'm going to interrupt you, I guess.
No, you're fine.
I've been so high on him since before the combine.
Yeah.
And then like to watch the conversation of like me talking about him, people being like, that's way too high. He's not a round 1 guy, not a round 1 guy. And now we're at the conversation where a lot of people are like, he might not be there at 30. It's been such a good feeling for me to know that like the community and like national, like Daniel Jeremiah mocked him to the Packers. And like these guys are kind of seeing what I saw organically. But it's so disappointing because I was like, this is a lock at 30. And I'm like, oh, now he might go before that. It's so gut-wrenching.
Yeah, but you watch him, he's a no-brainer, man. 4.43 in the 40.
Which was my only question really on tape. Like, does he have long speed? And then he runs a 4.43 at the combine.
Right. Like, if you're caught on the 32.5-inch vertical, okay, he just maybe wasn't explosive at that point during the combine. That was maybe it might have been one of the last things that he did. I don't remember.
It's also weird too, because he's got that vertical, like you mentioned, 12th percentile for that. But then for the broad jump, he's the 77th percentile, which is also measuring explosion. It was the weirdest. Like, I'm like, did you slip and fall in your vert? Like, what happened to you?
I think it's one of those like where, depending on the point of the day, like you're just you're maybe a little gassed, like you're using it all to run the 40. You're using everything you can for the short shuttle or 3-cone or on the field drills or whatever. So who knows? But you just watch him on tape, man. He's so fluid. He is just an easy evaluation, in my opinion, the way he can mirror receivers with control and with ease. He plays under control. He's got good bursts to click and close. He works his hands through the catch point. He looks comfortable playing press man. You're going to love this. I mean, this is what you're talking about all the time when we're talking about him, of how he transitions nicely from one route to the other, playing in zone. Disciplined eyes. I think form tackling could use some improvements, fighting off some blocks at times. I think there's times that maybe he reveals his chest too much when working vertically, kind of takes him off track. So like, you get a little grabby downfield with the receiver. They're able to create a little separation there. But yeah, he's got a very interesting journey, right? Like he went to Ole Miss, kind of finished his career, but he started at Louisiana, went to Alabama.
Has some good Bama tape, has some fun Bama tape at times.
Yeah, he played in 14 games, but only had one start, just less than ideal. But yeah, this guy I just think is one of the easier evaluations, top 20 player for me. And I think when you look at just the overall, first round, Seattle at 18, Arizona at 16, Atlanta at 15. Like, I could see it. And there's like a common thought, I guess, like maybe he's very comparable to AJ Terrell, which I can see, but at the same time, like, and I'm not a pro comp guy. I hate pro comps, but I do like getting like a little vibe sometimes. And, there were times like I'd watch him and I'm like, man, he kind of reminds me like Darius Slay. And just like, there's kind of that to his game. And I wasn't Darius Slay's biggest supporter when he was in Detroit, more so because he talked a lot of trash and didn't always back it up, aka getting, just beat up on by Demaryius Thomas on Monday Night Football. I'm not salty about it.
I'm over it.
Yeah, right. But no, I like Trey Amos is a perfect fit in Green Bay. He's the Jair Alexander replacement for them. So I think he's gone. But if he's at any way in striking distance, package those picks and go get your boy, because he would be a home run for Buffalo at 30 or moving up.
Yeah, he's I've flirted with the idea of putting him as CB3. Like, that's how much I've just liked his game. And I've told you this too, like when I get bored watching other like players, not even corners, like other players at other positions, it'll be like late and I'm like bored of watching someone else. Like, I'll go back and watch another Trey Amos game that like I haven't watched yet. And so I pretty much watched everything from like his 2024 like season. And he, again, in that mold of like an airspace constrictor, but it's a combination of how he does it. So he's not overly long, 31.25 inch arms, which is 41st percentile for corners. So he does have some length, but he's not overly long. But his ability to stay in phase through a combination of footwork and arm length is just what gets me so much. And you pair that with how comfortable and effective he is in press, both soft shoe and true. Now, he is more of a soft shoe corner, that type of mirroring type of guy, because he's got the feet for it and he's got the athleticism for it. But he will jam you. I do like when he turns and runs in press man, he has that textbook, like he looks to stab that near hip or that near shoulder when he turns and he runs with his guy. He can play left side, right side, boundary, or field. You talk about one of the things I really like, the transitions and his ability, how adept he is at passing off and collecting from the route distribution. This, what I'm going to explain, this may seem so simple, but like he's the, corner to the solo receiver side in a 3-by-1. So he's only got one pass catching option to his side. His man runs a drag to the other side of the field. He drops into his coverage. I think it's cover 4 on this play. He drops, but his man runs a drag. So what does he do? He gets his eyes to the 3 wide receiver side. He sees a post coming from the number 3 on the other side. So what does he do? He works his way and he takes away the post. And you see that, like his ability, we talk about it with offensive linemen. You'll know this, like you don't have anything to do. What do? You find work. And all of a sudden you crush somebody who's, you're a guard, you find some work, you crush the edge who's working on your right tackle. His ability to find work in coverage is consistent. And his ability to, we talk about the man coverage or the match coverage pieces all the time, match, carry, deliver. His ability to carry somebody or deliver them to his partner and then fall off and collect the next guy that's coming into his space. His ability to speed turn and carry someone and see someone like on a rail route in his periphery and speed turn and then get and make a play on the ball. He did that multiple times in 2024. And I think that shows his zone and his spatial awareness, the ability to locate the football, make plays on it. he can locate the football downfield and make a play, or he can read the wide receiver's hands and body language and punch through while keeping his eyes locked on them. I think he's somebody who can play catch man, bail, true press, soft shoe, or off man. I did initially on the tape have questions. My biggest questions were the long speed, which he essentially kind of, put to bed with running that 40 time. And I haven't seen any like agility testing from it's like the 3-cone stuff. I did have some change of direction questions for him at times. And maybe that's what like ties into the vert. I'm like, okay, he's not the most explosive guy, but he's got good clean feet and he's got good movement. So it's not something that I was like, this isn't going to play. But my biggest questions were some change of direction and some long speed stuff. And like you mentioned, giving up your chest a little bit. He does have good size, but letting guys get into his body a little bit. As a tackler, I like that he is a willing tackler, but he's more of a nail than he is a hammer. Like he's not coming up and burying dudes. Yes. But he'll get guys down. He's sound coming up, and it's not for a lack of willing. He can crack replace. He'll come up as a force player in cloud coverage. Like he's good from the run defense aspects. I just like him so much. And I do, for a guy who can play physical and play press, he's not overly grabby. I just think, again, that ability to play press and also stay in phase with guys through a combination of footwork and arm length, it just sets him so far apart. And I think he's the answer for the Bills, where they shifted too far to the traits with Kyer Elam. They shifted too hard to the size and the length and the speed and the athleticism and foregone and went past all the zone awareness, spatial awareness, comfortability in that. You don't have that with Amos. You've got somebody who has the zone and the spatial awareness and functionality and comfortability and capacity with somebody who is comfortable and effective in man and press man in particular. I think he ticks so many boxes. He right now is my dream scenario at pick 30. There is another dream scenario I have at 30 that isn't a corner, but that's a conversation for next week. But yeah, he's my darling at this point, and a guy that I'm pounding the table for. And you shut your mouth by saying that he's going to go before 30.
Yeah, no, I hope he doesn't for your sake, but I kind of I love what the Lions have done with like their cornerback room, but at the same time, I kind of wish they would have waited and then set themselves up to go get a guy like Trey Amos, because I know he's going to go right in that range, like where he was at, like in reaching distance for them, and they're not going to get him, and he's going to just be a stud wherever he goes. But he could be the pick at 30, and if he is, he's a no-brainer.
I would love that, and it would make my like post-draft episode so easy because I have so much tape on him. Like I have clips, I've got stuff saved that I haven't even posted yet. Like I've got so many things in my notes. Yeah, he's my dream scenario.
I think that drag route you were talking about, I can't remember. It might be LSU or Mississippi State.
It's LSU.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to think back. I'm like, I think that's LSU.
I forget who, and then Lacey for LSU. I'm pretty sure Lacey's the one who is the number 3 on the other side who runs the post. He's either the solo receiver and he runs the drag, or he's the 3 on the post, because him and Lacey were battling for a multitude of that game. He had a couple really great coverage reps on Lacey. Yeah, I just dig so much for Amos, and I've watched him against a variety of talent and teams, and yeah, you see him just play. You see the technique play, the traits play. I would welcome him. And then him as a pairing with Christian Benford, like, man, you just set yourselves up outside for a long, long while to come. Anybody else in your round 1 target category?
No, I'm good as far as round 1. I think, like as much as I love this corner class, as I kind of mentioned, once you get past the top 6 or 7 players at the position, I think there starts to become a little bit of a drop off. Yeah. And I say that because I'm not sold on Darien Porter from Iowa State whatsoever.
You hate him.
I don't hate him. I just,
you said the other night you were like, I can't watch this tape.
Yeah, I can't watch it, dude. I can't watch his freaking tape. He's 6'3", runs like the wind, great fluidity, but he might be the most least physical defender in this draft, and that is just, it's bad, man. Like, he just does not get physical on the perimeter, and I think the league is starting to change where they value these more physical run defenders.
Got to play the run, perimeter. Man. You got to fit the run from a schematic standpoint, and you also have to be able to finish.
Yeah, like that's why, and I know Arnold slipped a little bit last year, but he was a player that they really liked. So
he was almost like a run first type of corner.
Yeah, but like he was a player that like the Lions really liked and other teams really liked. So I just, I don't know, man. I think there's a little bit of a drop off once you get past these kind of top 6 or 7 names that we talked about. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about what might be there at 56 or 62.
The last one that I'll mention, I'll save him for round 2 because he kind of fits for some conversations. Yeah, that's I like that round 1 conversation. All right, let's pivot. Round 2, cornerback targets. And I normally mention this. I know I didn't in this episode, but a lot of you folks have been doing it already. If you're here joining us live, feel free to put up in the chat who are you targeting, who you like, why, so on and so forth. I know people have been throwing a lot of names through. I knew we were organically going to talk about some of them, so I haven't answered them there. I know there's some other questions about some day 3 corners. We're going to be getting to day 3 corners, and I'm sure covering a lot of the guys you folks mentioned. If not, I've started a bunch of these comments, and we'll hit these guys. But yeah, if you're watching at home, let us know who you're targeting, why, if you hate our targets, so on and so forth, all that kind of stuff. Also, if you're here and you're enjoying this episode, please, 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 and thank you, drop a like. It goes a long way, and they are likes are the lifeblood for these streams and the algorithm. So like, comment, all that kind of stuff. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. All right, Russ, the floor is yours. Round 2, draft target or targets for the Bills at the cornerback position.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky.
Okay.
He's my 55th overall ranked player. I'm not. I like him, but then I don't because he's only 183 pounds. I don't necessarily know what you do with that. It kind of has shown up on tape, like the thin, wiry frame doesn't always hold up with contact. He had the shoulder injury. It kept him out, somewhere between 5 or 6 weeks, something like that. I like the range that he has. I like the ball skills. I like that he, kind of has that high turnover probability and making plays on the football.
So much juice.
Yeah, there's so much to like there with his athleticism, 39.5-inch vertical, 10.9 broad, 4.28 40. But I look at him as a guy that, like, the speed doesn't always match. Like, there's times like he gets beat and I'm like, wait a minute, you're a sub 4.3 guy. Like, what are we doing? I thought footwork wise, like, gets crossed up at times. Some of that lateral quickness that I feel like he possesses isn't always there. Like, he just gets lost. But my biggest caveat with him was just, like, in zone, I felt like he played with really bad, like, spatial awareness or eye discipline at times. I felt like he, like, would either drift or he would, like, get caught looking in the backfield. So he's got some things to clean up. And I know I'm, like, talking about a player that you should target and I'm just bashing him, but I'm talking about the negatives because there are some positives. Press defender. I think he's good there in press man. He's got the long,
which is so crazy for his size and frame. And you're like, oh, he's probably like an offer zone corner. It's like, nah, dude, he plays press and he's good at it in battles.
Yeah, like he's a battler, man. So, like, I think he's a guy that you draft, you develop. Again, you're talking a number 2 corner, maybe the potential to be a number 1. We'll see. Like, I thought it was interesting on Mock Draftable. One of the, like, top 2 comparisons for him were Denzel Ward and Marshawn Lattimore. I don't think he plays like those guys at all.
No.
He did get Max Melton as well, which I loved him coming out of.
I wish there were more play style comps on, like, instead of just pure measurement comps, because I see the comp and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, wait a minute. They don't play like this at all.
Yeah, I mean, maybe like DJ Turner from Michigan is kind of comparable. He was like a 180-pound guy. But again, you're talking about more of like a second round pick type of player. So there's a lot to like with him. I think he's a little bit more of a project, but he's going to contribute. He's going to contribute at a high level at some point. I think as a rookie, there's some good length there. There's press coverage skills. I think he can work in zone, but he's just got to work on some of the awareness and where he is on the field with that. Overall, we're talking about pick 56. I don't think you can get upset if you ended up with Maxwell Hairston, who's a guy that's getting kind of that round 1 buzz. So I'd be a little surprised if he got in the first round, but again, teams do love those 4.3 guys. So maybe he ends up going a little bit sooner than we think. And maybe he's the guy at 30. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. But again, if he's there at 56, I think it's a guy that you would definitely love to have.
So he was the guy who I consider talking about to end the round 1 segment. And for 2 reasons. One, like you hit it kind of on the head, like, hey, and I'm going to get into my evaluation on him in a minute, but the speed, like, it's just so real. The speed and the twitch, you see it play in the short area. You see it play in the long speed. Like, I mean, his 10-yard split is 1.5 seconds, which is the 86th percentile. And then his 4.28 40 is the 99th percentile. Like, it's just speed for days in the short area, but also from a long perspective. And, you know, it ties into one of his negatives. Like, I literally wrote, like, will get fooled on routes in zone, even on vertical routes, but is able to seamlessly get back in phase due to athleticism and speed. And I forget, I think is it the Texas game? Maybe it's Georgia. He's the outside corner to the bottom of the screen. The offense is going from right to left. And he opens up to the sideline thinking the receiver's just going to run a go. And instead the receiver puts his outside foot in the ground and runs a post. And Hairston is completely fooled.
Mm-hmm.
And he speed turns. He's opened up the sideline. It's just like, he's like, okay. And he speed turns, closes him down in a heartbeat. The ball is a little late. Oh, you know, no, I think it's Texas because Ewers throws the ball. And I was like, oh, typical Quinn Ewers throw. He's late and it's a little behind.
That would make sense.
Yeah, which is so terrible. It's so mean. But so the ball's a little late, but still the recovery speed. Like he gets beat and calmly and seamlessly just runs down this post 30 yards downfield and ends up getting a PBU. Then he gets to where the ball is, jumps up high points, knocks it down. The easiest thing. And I was like, oh, I could see him creeping up into the back end of round one because of that speed, because of that athleticism, because of the twitch, all of it. Now, for the Bills in particular, and I think this will tie into other teams, the off the field stuff, I wonder if that just completely takes him off the Bills board.
Yeah.
Because it's not even just like, oh, some character stuff. Like, it's some not great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For those who don't know, you can Google it, look it up, all that type of
Kansas
stuff.
City Chief. He's a chief. He's a chief.
Fair. Yeah. He's for, I'm not even going to make any jokes, but I just don't think he's the kind of guy that they want to swim in their pool if they're the Bills. And that might be a great
way of putting it.
And there might be some other teams that feel that way as well. So if that was gone, he honestly would be a target for me with the Bills at 30, even despite some of the concerns, because even like the tackling is a big one that I have as well. He's willing. Guys that are willing, I think you can show improvement and you can coach up a little bit because he is willing, but you mentioned it, he's a poor tackler. Like his angles and decisions and run support, as far as like a fit player and a force player, they're questionable. And then because of the size and the frame, he'll miss tackles. But he's got forced fumbles. He's fitting inside like the C gap and the B gap on inside runs, and he's like sticking dudes. Like, so it's almost this high variance of like, wow, look at this smaller corner make this tackle. And then 2 plays later for the next 3 plays, you're like, oh, okay, that's what I thought he would tackle like. But he's willing, and you see good reps, but then you see really bad ones. And I think that can be coached up a little bit. I also think some of the recognition can be coached up a little bit. And even though I think he's more of a press and a man guy right now than he is a true like spatial awareness, let me read this, you do see it in flashes. Like he can fall off in coverage. He will bait quarterbacks, and he knows what his speed is. So he'll sit and kind of wait and bang and pull that trigger. And that's what intrigued me with him from the Bills perspective, and really for any team. I just think you want athleticism back there. You want speed, especially for a secondary like the Bills that isn't overly athletic. Like Benford is a legit CB1, not the most athletic type of dude. Taylor Rapp is in line to start for you in the secondary. Not a burner, not the most athletic type of dude. We'll see if Cole Bishop wins that other safety spot. It will be nice to have a guy on the outside who has that juice and has those type of traits. And again, think can be coached up. So I wouldn't be surprised. Initially, I wouldn't have been surprised if the Bills took a shot at him at 30 or if he crept into the first round. With the off the field stuff, I think that knocks him into the second round for teams. I wonder if it knocks him off the Bills board completely. But if that wasn't an issue, he's a guy that I would be thrilled with in round 2. And I do think, given some of the frame concerns and the tackling and some of the eyes stuff that you mentioned, that I'm on board with. Yeah. He does strike me as more of a very solid round 2 corner, and a guy that I would love at 56 or 62, probably more 56, if not for the off the field stuff, which personally bothers me, but also makes me think that it takes him off the board. But he's got some good tape against some good teams, Texas, Georgia. Like, he does his thing. The Louisville tape is good. I know Louisville wasn't like a baller team this year, but I thought he's got some good tape.
Yeah, the off the field stuff was why he kind of was at 55, because I was like, man, he's really talented, but like for example, I'm just going to use Mike Green as a defensive end. Like, he's got top 15 tape when he wants to turn it on, but he doesn't play against some of the best competition. And he did turn it on. Like what he did, 84 tackles at defensive end. It's ridiculous. But at the end of the day, like there's some off the field stuff there where I'm like, dude, I got to put him in the 20 range because I don't want to burn myself here and be like, yeah, he was a top 10 player and he's actually a POS off the field. Like I'm going to play to the part of the media role that I have or whatever. And just go with some of the knowledge.
This is why I wish we joke about it. Like we get all the all 22 and the on-field stuff. I wish we had all 22 for like the interviews at the combine or the pre-draft visits. Like I want to know. One. Yeah, just give me like that's part of my favorite. I said it on last week's episode. Like some of my favorite content all year are the draft interviews that teams put out once they draft a guy, of like when they met with him at the combine or their visit or whatever. Like that stuff matters so much because that's when you get to peek into who a player is and what they are, how smart they are, but their character, their personality. Do they vibe with your coaching staff? Do you think they'll vibe with your culture? Do you think they're a detriment? Are they good enough that they can overcome that detriment? You're still willing to take a swing. So much of that matters. And I said it on Twitter earlier today, like when you get to the NFL, even when you get to college, but especially when you get the higher you go up, like if you're playing like top level high school, and then if you're playing college and then you're playing the NFL, once you get to that spot in the NFL, everyone is good at football. And they all have varying levels of size and athleticism and traits and skill sets and all this stuff. But what separates the bad from the meh and the meh from the good and the good from the great and the great from the Hall of Fame is the mental side of it. How you see the game, how you prepare, how hard you work, how you study, all of that. And we can't tell that by watching stuff on the field, although we can try to piece something together. But yeah, I would love to get some of the, especially for a guy like Hairston, and a guy for Green as well, because Green vehemently denies both allegations, even though they're the same. And one came in high school and one came in college. And it's like, that's not a good look for you. But he calmly and vehemently is like, no, they're both not true. That's why I wasn't charged, yada, yada. So what does the interview process look like? Like, what is the investigation work that teams have done? Aside from the interview piece, like how much does that track? Yeah, it's an unfortunate part.
There are times on the field where I'm like, oh, he's doing it. He's getting mad. There's something going on with this guy. Not saying anything. And I'm just using this one player as an example. Tay Felton from Maryland, the receiver. There's an instance where a ball he's wide open and the ball is launched to the moon. And he's just doing this going towards the sideline because it was third down, big key down in distance or whatever in the game. I can't remember who they were playing, but you could tell he was visibly frustrated. Not saying he's a bad player or anything that, but it just got me thinking.
Well, that was my think of the Jermaine Burton stuff last year. And I saw the clip of what happened after the Tennessee game or whatever. And I heard some other rumblings too. And then you watch how intense he is on the field, positively and negatively. And I would hear stuff and I'd be like, oh, that tracks because I can watch him make this. I forget what game it was, but he made a catch early on. Maybe it was against A&M. No, he made a catch early on and got stuck by this corner and got stopped on third down. And he made 4 catches after that on this corner. And every time he caught it, he got up and got into that corner's face to bark at him like crazy. And I was just like, oh, I like it. But then after the second and third time, I was like, all right, dude, he gets it.
Turn it back a little bit.
Yeah, just all right, dude. He made a play, you made a play. Calm down. And I was just like, oh, this stuff kind of, or even some of the stuff with not to get too much into it, but some of this off the field stuff you hear about Isaiah Bond. I would see certain things on tape and I'm like, oh, that kind of tracks because he would do stuff that I'd be like, bro, what are you doing? And then you hear some of those rumblings and I'm like, oh, that maybe kind of tracks a little bit. And for Mike Green, top end talent of the draft with what he's able to do. But some of the off the field stuff, and Hairston, I think a different type of dude, kind of guy who could have propelled himself maybe into the first, but yeah, I'm interested to see what kind of fall he has or not. Does he go in round 1 because teams don't care? Or does he falter into the late round 2 because teams do care? Or is it more tape related? There's so many interesting pieces with Hairston and guys like that in general. What else you got for round 2 corner targets?
This one's going to probably surprise some people, but I'm going to go with a player that is higher on my board. And again, I'm going off of my evaluation. I'm not kind of the same point as Ant. I'm head in the sand, I'm grinding tape, and that's it. I'm not going off anybody else's evaluation here. But I'm going with the 73rd ranked player on my board, Jacob Parrish, the corner from Kansas State.
I love Parrish. I didn't realize he was that high for you. This is sick.
Yeah, I think he's more of like a slot in the NFL, right? Like 5'10",
That's one way.
191.
Yeah.
But 4'3", 540, 37.5-inch vertical, almost 31-inch arms. Like, he's longer than you think. I think he can play inside, outside. Really
Yes.
reminds me of like a Meek Robertson, and he's just like this solid third-round pick. Like,
Yes.
there's some limitations with this game where you're like, all right, I'm not going to take him at, the first round or early in the second round, but late in the second, early in the third, this is a guy that you draft because he's going to be solid. He's going to carve 5, 6, 7 years in the league. He's physical. He's feisty. He doesn't care about his size limitations. He comes up and hits. We talked about it last night. Like, he comes up in the hole and hits Cam Scatabo. I got him literally saved in my desktop right now, like those two clips.
Dude, the first one, he like dives at him and puts chest right on like knee and ankle, wraps him up. And then the next one, it's like literally 3 plays later, Arizona State runs duo, and he's in the box, and it's
Like,
3rd and 1, and he brings everything. And Scatabo gets the first down by like a 1/2 inch, but he brings everything and chops him down and goes through his lower body. And I was like, sign me up, I'm done. Sign me up, I'm ready. I do think. Oh, this is a great comment. I just got
no, you're
excited.
good.
But this is a good comment from Charles. For me, the first thing I wrote in my notes for Parrish, I wrote that he's a poor man's Isaiah McDuffie. And I mean that as a huge compliment. Like the inside, outside, some of the way that he's built and the way that he looks. It also might be how much he wears long sleeves, which McDuffie did at Washington a lot and still does
many of those guys, and it drives me nuts. They're all wearing purple long sleeves. I'm like, who is who right now?
Dude, I can't tell you. I could do a full episode just on poor camera angles for teams and teams where I can't tell which player is who until I get like the end zone angle. It drives me absolutely insane. But yeah, I think Parrish is a poor man's McDuffie with the inside, outside, the play style, and some of the specific aspects, which I have in my evaluations as well. I'm going to talk about as well. I'm all aboard like you have in Parrish this high. This excites me greatly.
Yeah, no, I really like his game. I know that's going to surprise people. Like, you do a mock draft simulator, I see him at like 189, and I'm like, that's just not realistic. Like, it's just not. Like, I really think he's going to be a much earlier pick than people think.
Especially with how he plays the run, and you talked about it, the inside, outside, that carries a lot of value. If teams want to play him in the slot and he can cover and fit the run, he might go earlier solely because of that.
And that's the thing. Like, if you're playing, I don't know, let's say you're playing somebody that's 2x2 and he's covering the slot and the slot receiver motions across, and, on that side of the field, you got trips now you switch over into zone, whatever you're doing. Maybe you're going into, quarters over there, whatever the case may be, or some type of cover 2. However you want to defend that. Maybe you're running cover 3 against the trip side over there. Who knows? But he now maybe moves into the box. Maybe the safety rotates over to that trip side. Now you've kind of got like a single high safety in the middle of the field, but he's now closer to the box. He can still play that physicality. Maybe he matches.
You don't need him to travel to the trip side. You can have him essentially be kind of like, okay, he's the will on this weak side here, and he'll fit the run in that light box and do work.
Exactly. He gives up that versatile element to the defense that some defenses don't have. And when we're talking about like the Brian Branch, you want that dime backer type deal. Not saying he's going to play a linebacker role, but in a dime, you might want to put him up near the box because of these things. So I really like him. I think he can play press man. He stays in phase. He's got some ball skills there. I think the biggest thing with him was just like, I thought he would get crossed up with his feet at times. Maybe
he has a lot of stumbling. Stumbles and falls down. In every game I watched, 4 of them, he would have multiple times in each game where like in a pedal or a turn or just like he would break
sharp inbreakers. And he's just like, I don't know if it was like a balance thing or his base got too wide.
Yeah, I was like, are the field conditions bad everywhere you're playing, but like no one else is stumbling? Like it's weird. 1,000%.
And I don't know if like he was like, if he's being taught to like kind of run and then squat and kind of sit there and wait. I don't necessarily know what it is, but like there's some of that start-stop stuff that just worries me a little bit. But he's a younger player, man. He just turned 21. Like he's going to spend his whole rookie season at the age of 21. Like there is a lot that you can get out of this guy. I like him. I mean, I really do. He kind of, like I mentioned, reminds me of Meek Robertson. Maybe pick 73 is a little too soon for people, or 56, 62 for the Bills' sake. But like, I think he can be a high level player with, contributions wise as a rookie, and then eventually turn into that CB2, or CB3 in this case. And if we're running a lot of nickel,
that's a starter.
This is a guy that makes a ton of sense. So I'm a big Jacob Parrish guy. And that was kind of the two guys that I was talking about as far as like day 2.
I really, really, really like him. And to your point, he's a guy who, so I was going to talk about him in the day 3 targets because my hope was he would fall. Because to your point, like I have like a 3 on him, but the Bills don't have a 3. And maybe round 2 is a little rich, but I wouldn't hate it because I love him. But my hope is, okay, does he fall to 109 and the Bills can get him at 109? I just like the way that he plays. And so I'll just kind of go through my evaluation piece. And, you hit the numbers and measurables. His arm length that you mentioned, that 28th percentile for arm length, which isn't obviously amazing, but it isn't terrible. He doesn't have, Roger McCreary arms, but which is ironic because McCreary has turned into a really solid nickel in the NFL. Another one in the flag camp for Anthony.
He was pretty good. He was pretty good.
I got a lot of crap because he had short arms. Same thing with McDuffie. People told me neither of those guys would be good, but whoever. I'm not that person. I don't care.
Hey, look at us. Who would have thought?
Look at us. Look at us. Who would have thought?
Not me.
XO. Dear
Rob.
I like snakes and sparklers. All right. The first thing I have in my notes, and this is like, there's so many things that like I find interesting with it. So the 2 big ones, and I'll mention like the stumbling, which kind of want to lead with that. The first thing I have is he does have calm and quiet feet. He can sit and slowly do that kick step, calm, under control. But then at the same time, like he's falling all over himself. And I don't know why or what's happening. Twitchy, good breaks on the ball. He drives and closes quickly. But also within that, he's got this hiccup. I didn't know how to like verbalize it. I said it's like he double clutches. He double clutches at times when planting and driving, almost like he has to load up to come forward. Like he'll be in kind of like that turn and in bail, and someone runs like an out or a comeback. And instead of just like bang and coming out, he almost has to like boom, boom, and then come forward. But when he comes forward, there's twitch and he closes quick. And so again, that was another one for me. I'm like, are your feet bad? Do you not have the explosion like in your type of body? But then you look at his testing numbers, 87th percentile for the vert, 88th percentile for the broad jump. Like he's got twitch and speed and explosion for days. So then I'm like, okay, it shouldn't be explosion. Is it your feet? Are you getting crossed up? Like it's just, that weird double, again, like a double clutch, like foot, and then bang and come out. And he's not high cut. He's got good build. So I'm like, I don't know why that's happening to you. But I do think he's also, from an outside perspective, and this is kind of tying into it as well, why I was like wondering, does he go earlier? Does he fall? I don't know if teams are going to see him as a slot or see him as an outside or inside-outside versatility, both type of deal. I do think he can play outside. I agree with your sentiments of like, if you want to get him in early, you put him in the slot, and if he grows into more of a CB2, but you watch him and he plays a really good soft shoe press. He'll work in a punch on the release or early in the stems, but he's got the feet and the athleticism and the coverage chops to stay in phase against a variety of dudes and body types in press. He's also a really good coverage communicator and adjuster. He's the one throwing out the hand signals.
Yes.
And if someone short motions down into twins, he's
doing the
check. Yep. He's doing everything. It's not just him relaying. He's doing the initial check. He's doing the initial coverage. And then we talked about it. I wrote a fearless and physical tackler, and then I put a star and I put see him stick Scattaboo in the hole twice. You'll watch him come up and make a quick tackle versus receivers if they hit a little quick like smoke or a little quick hot to him. If he's in off, like he'll just come down, close the space, make a good sound tackle. He's physical, but he also wraps. I like that a lot. He's slot capable, ability to stay in the hip pocket. Some negatives. I think the arm length and height will limit him at times at the catch point. And then this next one really came from the game against Arizona, some of his reps against Tet McMillan, and then just their receivers in general who are a little bigger bodied. Same thing with Oklahoma State. Bigger bodies, I think, will cause issues for him in 2 ways. In disengaging from blocks and at the break in routes. Bigger frames can go through him or create separation with physicality, which is ironic because he welcomes contact and looks to create collision points. If he's going to play an off-man coverage, I think he has to be more of a scooch technique as opposed to a catch man because the catch man will leave him vulnerable in his chest against bigs. There are times where you see guys like literally just run through him and he's on the ground.
Yeah.
But I also think some of that can be tied to awareness and being coached up a little bit more. I also don't think NFL receivers are going to look to bully through him like college dudes are who are trying to send a message.
Right.
NFL receivers don't want contact. They're not trying to like do that type of game unless they're DK Metcalf and they're throwing a temper tantrum because they didn't get the ball one
or
time.
George Pickens or something, right?
Or Pickens, yeah. And Pickens is a whole different cat in it every type of way. So yeah, that's rarer, but it still is somewhat of an issue for me. Sure tackler again, brings his body and wraps up. And then the coverage versatility. Cover 3, they also ran some 3 cloud, which I thought was cool, but man capable. Cover 2, Tampa 2, you can watch him rock a cloud corner. He's got the ability as that cover 3, deep third corner. If 2 guys are running Burts, he can space them both and keep an eye on the QB and make a play. But some of the double clutching in the breaks and some of the footwork stumbles and sloppiness at times, along with the struggles versus some bigger frames or bodies at times, is why I knocked him down a bit. But I really like Amos is my top of. I also love Barron as well, but I think so many people love Jahdae Barron, so like that's not a flag I'm trying to plant. Because you like the guy who won like best DB in college football, good for you. Amos is like my day one early guy. Parrish is that next corner that I absolutely love. And I haven't seen a ton of people talk about him. It's so funny. We were talking about him last night, texting late. It's so funny. Yeah, because I was watching him against Arizona State, and you were like, oh, are you also up watching Scat? I was like, no, I'm watching Parrish, but I'm clipping Scattaboo stuff because he's sick. And so, yeah, it's so funny that you have him that. I haven't heard anyone have him that high. And so the fact that you do, I wouldn't hate it. I mean this as a compliment. I think he's a poor man's Isaiah McDuffie or Trent McDuffie. Who the hell is Isaiah McDuffie?
You kept saying Isaiah McDuffie, the linebacker for the Packers, but you meant Trent McDuffie. I knew who you meant.
And you know what I used to do too? When McDuffie was coming out, I would say OJ McDuffie, the receiver from the Dolphins in the 90s. God, okay. And I don't even watch any Isaiah McDuffie stuff. Yeah, Trent McDuffie. So sorry. Yeah, I think he's a poor man's Trent McDuffie, and McDuffie's an all-pro corner. So a poor man's Trent McDuffie, I almost said Isaiah again. A poor man's Trent McDuffie is like a solid starting corner. I really do think he has CB2 upside and at worst inside-outside versatility. And for a team like the Bills, who I think always having a good answer to the backup of Taron Johnson matters a lot. And if you've got somebody who can do that and also compete for your CB2 or just be CB3 depth, dream scenario for me is the Bills get him at 109 after getting Amos at 30 and I ride off into the sunset.
That would be the dream, right? I mean, it's possible. It's possible that he goes down.
Isaiah McDuffie this whole time. You should have corrected me. That's on
I should have. I should have. My fault. I just didn't want to. I was like, he's in
no. It's a weird type. It's a weird thing to navigate. I understand, but yeah, I can't.
But yeah, so I mean,
Isaiah McDuffie. I never even think of Isaiah McDuffie.
That means in the off season, you got to watch his film and we got to break it down. Me and you got to do a show. We got to do Isaiah McDuffie film breakdown for no reason whatsoever. Just
all the McDuffies. We'll do him. We'll do Trent. We'll find some 90s Dolphins tape and watch OJ McDuffie.
And then when we're done, we'll watch OJ Simpson driving down the highway. It's, we'll close it on the TV and then we'll put on WrestleMania and we'll have a grand time.
That's a good show. I'd watch that show.
That's a great podcast. It's like 8 hours long.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move to day 3.
Same. I would say anybody, and I'll mention too, my one last thing. I do have more of, this is a range too. I would look for AZ Thomas to be there. I'm calling him AZ because I'm not going to try to pronounce the first name because I screw it up all the time. I can't even say Trent instead of Isaiah. So boom, there you go. But I just don't think Thomas is going to be there at 56. I think he's going to go between 35 and 45, 50 at the latest. Maybe he is a trade up candidate like you brought out earlier. Another one too that I would I like here at this spot, Benjamin Morrison is a day 2 type of guy. Yeah. You talked about him earlier.
That's the reason why I didn't bring him up.
So that's the same thing I'm going to say too as well. Like he's a guy that I like the idea of here. I also don't think he's going to be there. He's another one where, and again, we talked about it earlier with him and Revel. I don't know if teams are going to be like the guy we saw in 2023 having good battles against Marvin Harrison Jr. That's like if you told me a team has Benjamin Morrison as CB3 or CB2, I wouldn't think that's crazy. If you told me they have Benjamin Morrison as like CB8, I wouldn't think that's crazy. So I wonder where they put him. But some of the 2024 tape was good too, even though he was battling injury and then ended up getting hurt. And he's another guy, again, if we're ticking the boxes. Another dude who's comfortable in press, really good feet, fluid athlete, good soft shoe corner in terms of press. But the size is what gets me a little. 6 feet, 193 pounds, but 30 and 3/8 inch arms, which is 14th percentile. And I do think that short arm length gets him at times, but he can mitigate and make up for it with really good like short area burst and twitch. Good feet, good zone eyes. He's another guy who's able to collect and fall into windows. But some of the things with that, I feel like he takes unnecessary risks. Like he peeks into the backfield when he doesn't have to, or he tries to make a spectacular play by going into a different coverage or kind of abandoning his responsibility to make a play somewhere else. Sometimes it works and he's got these awesome interceptions. Other times he's kind of vacating his responsibility. He can get caught high at the tackle point, leading to missed tackles. He's more of a nail than a hammer as a tackler and seems to be kind of not sound in that regard, but he is willing. Looks to jump routes and will vacate his coverage responsibility accordingly, which is kind of awesome, but also kind of not good. We'll give up separation at the release and also on the break due to his short arms, but he has the athleticism and the feet to quickly get back into phase. And I start again. He does have good feet, good recovery, good closing speed. That shows on slants. He'll give up separation on the break, but he takes 2 steps and he's able to close right back down. Understands where throws are going to. He's able to cut dudes off and kind of beat them to the spot. And then he can get manhandled by bigger wide receivers as blockers, and he can get run through by downhill running backs and even quarterbacks, bigger body QBs who are kind of moving. We'll get through him a bit as well. But I threw him in here because I do have a day 2 grade on him. I like him, but there were some questions I had that I mentioned, but the ceiling is there for him. And I just don't think he's going to be there, but I'm putting him in this conversation.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, I think he kind of falls into like that Garrett Williams category that we saw 2 years ago, 3 years ago now from Syracuse. He was the corner. He had I think it was the torn ACL, if I remember right. But he got drafted in 2023. I think he was like a 3rd round pick to the Cardinals. But like,
and they have him play like slot, safety, all this different stuff in their defense.
He's turning into an absolute stud for them. And the only reason why he dropped was because he wasn't healthy. So it just like, it goes to show, like, if Morrison can stay healthy, he had the shoulder surgery in the offseason going into this past season. Then he had the hip surgery during the season and missed a bunch of time. So, like, it makes sense, like, if he drops a little bit, and he could be there at 56, 62. It makes a lot of sense. Just in my mind today, I don't think he's there. But I'm glad you did talk about him because he deserves the credit to be talked about. Because, like I said earlier to start the show, he is that forgotten corner. And he does like come from just a family of athletes. Like, I don't know if people know this, but like his brother, Sammy, played football at Arizona and San Diego State. His father, Daryl, played football at Arizona and was drafted in the 3rd round of the 1993 NFL draft by the Washington, at the time, Redskins. And Morrison's only 21 years old. So like his father's like a pastor now in Arizona and stuff, but he's only 21 years old, still relatively young. Long speed, I think I have question marks. 100-meter dash time PR was 11.46 seconds, but
not ideal.
Ball skills are there. Plays under control at times,
Yeah, he's more of a short area burst twitch guy than he is like a long speed running with dudes down the field and closing vertically.
Yeah, but you play him an off man or something like that, like he's probably gonna be money.
I would let it do that. Keep everything in front of you and take advantage of your feet and the short area quickness and kind of let him go forward from there. Yeah, I'm very interested to see if teams are like, no, we're going off the 2023 tape where he was one of the best corners in the nation. Or do they pair that with the 2024 stuff? Again, the 2024 stuff is still good. Or this is another guy too, like as guys are doing medicals, is there some underlying thing and they think he's going to get banged up a whole bunch? And does that scare them off of taking him early? Like, can he fall because of that? Like like if you told me that he's there at 56, I would be like, oh, okay. If you told me he goes at like 36 or whatever, or early 2, I'd be like, oh, okay.
I do have a question.
Ooh, I like it.
How much do you think Benjamin Morrison benefited from playing with a player like Xavier Watts? Because this doesn't get talked about enough. Xavier Watts may be one of the more slept on guys, top 50 player for me.
I think he's going to end up being my safety too.
That's Malachi Moore for me. I don't know. I'm crazy.
Oh, I forget. I'm not done with safety, but
But they're like neck and neck. I mean, I think they're like one's 45, one's 47 or whatever. Okay, but like, Xavier Watts is the only player in the country not named Travis Hunter that was unanimous All-American in 2023 and in 2024. Like, does that help Benjamin Morrison at all that you've got this freak of a safety playing on the field and patrolling so much that he's putting you in a position, not putting you in a position because you got to still be in that position. So I'm not discrediting the skill set, but like how much of a benefit is that for him? And like, you look at like the draft board and stuff like that, not saying Morrison's going to go at like pick 27 to Baltimore, but Baltimore's got pick 59. Like, does he make a lot of sense there? Does he make a lot of sense for Green Bay at 54? You know, you put him in a place where there's a lot more talent. Does Morrison, not saying Buffalo doesn't have talent. He absolutely would make sense at 56, 62. But like, is he a guy that's going to be better off with a better supporting cast, or is he better off being the guy for a defense? You know what I mean?
That's a fair point. And I even with the size, I'm like, does anybody, it's a good question. I'm even with the size, I'm like, does somebody want to put him in the slot? How much does he benefit? Yeah, that's a good question of like, how much does he benefit with like Watts? I mean, Watts was such an eraser in a multitude of ways with their coverage. Yeah. But man, Morrison on an island was like good. Yeah. There's some really good like tape for him in some battles. Yeah, he
is oddly comparable to Garrett Williams though. 192 in pounds to 193. Arm length is the exact same. Smaller hands. A lot of comparisons there. So I don't know. Again, could be a late day 2 pick somewhere. You never know.
One last guy I wanted to mention. We talked about him briefly, but TM asked, "What's y'all's take on Darien Porter from Iowa State?" So Russ hates him. I'll speak on him. Bro, I shouldn't say hate, although you did say that last night.
Not a fan of his tape. I just can't get behind it. If you can't tackle or do certain things, I got like, you got to draw me in after a game or two. And if you're not doing that, I don't got time to watch it. I just don't. Like, I got to move on.
He really good, like testing numbers, the longest arms in the corner class, 93rd percentile overall. Plays a lot of press man. I'll just kind of go through my notes. I thought he has good spatial awareness of his own. He's able to space routes accordingly in spot drop coverages. Press man corner, he's susceptible to underneath routes and in breakers. His feet will get crossed up and or stuck. He'll get caught lunging at times. His feet and hands will often be out of sync. He's a willing force player, but his lanky frame makes him movable as a run defender. Russ and I were talking about this last night or 2 days ago. He plays in like a weird rotation, like a 3-corner rotation at Iowa State. And I didn't know if it was just like always the plan, or if they took him off by design with more run series or rundowns kind of happening. He's got quick, clean feet when driving on routes. And he does have some hip sync to his game. He's got a really, really, really great rep against Iowa where he comes up as his Iowa tape is good, but he comes up because he bites on the play action, slams into a receiver, sees that it's play action, drops back into his deep third, sees the tight end leaking out, sinks underneath it, goes up and makes an interception. It's a real heady play. It's great processing and recognition. He's also got a really nice play in that game where Caleb Johnson busts off a big run and Porter runs him down from the far sideline by the line of scrimmage and chases him down. Like, great long speed, good twitch and length. But yeah, he's got some lankiness and some frame concerns. And again, like, I want to give him his credit in some aspects, right? Because I'll watch, like, who was it? Let me go to my games. It was against Texas Tech. They're like running pin and pull, and he's the force defender. He comes up and meets the pulling guard, but he gets absolutely demolished. But he's willing, like, he's not running away from contact. He's just not the best, like, contact guy. And I think there's some sloppiness overall. I think you can clean it up. I don't love him. I have more of a 3 on him because of the worries. I think he could creep up. It wouldn't be crazy to me if the Bills considered him at 56 or 62. I don't love him. I don't like him. He's in this like weird in-between range because of the run defense piece, but the traits, like, so I don't hate him like Russ does. But I don't
like the last player I watched, dude.
He's got some fun coverage pieces, like, legitimately. Some nice plays on the ball, the length plays, the athleticism plays, the speed is very real. I just question the technique and the rhythmic play that he seems to be lacking at times. And then some of the run support stuff is a big question. And again, if you are, I want to put this, or TM says if he doesn't like to tackle, I'll pass. It's not that he doesn't like to tackle. He's just not great at it, and he's thin. Like, so it's harder. But it's not that he's not willing. Like, he is willing. It's weird. Like, yeah, he's slamming into guys, but they're not going anywhere because he's like skinnier and he's longer and lanky. Again, he's got 33 and 33 and an eighth inch arms, which is 93rd percentile. So he's got long arms and he's 6'2", 195. So picture like a longer, thinner type of corner. So it's not that he's not willing. It's just not a strong suit because of how he's built. Now, you could coach it up. There could be some technique improvements. I just think it has to be a lot given how he's built lower body and upper body. It's not that he's not willing. It's just a bit messy. But again, so are some of his coverage aspects. I think taking him is more a bet on the traits. You're betting on the speed and the length and your ability to coach that guy up, which is why I can understand a team taking him in round 2 because of the traits. There are certain things that scare me off. Even though I'm not a pure like traits over production or production over traits guy, there are just some things that scare me. But yeah, so I want to talk about that because he was on my list, and we mentioned him briefly about how you didn't like him, but I saw that comment. I know for a lot of fans, he's like from a mock draft perspective, he's like a day 2 staple or like a round 2 staple. So I thought it made sense to kind of speak on him here a little. All right, day 3 guys.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm moving on. I'm going to Quincy Riley out of Louisville.
Oh.
His position coach and I actually have a pretty good friendship, and we talk pretty often.
Don't make stuff up. You're such a liar.
We can pull up the screen. We'll show up the DMs, dude. It is what it is. I don't know. What do you want from me? This is your show. What do you want from me? I'm just the guy.
What do you tell him? Oh, man, yeah, Quincy was so good this year. XO.
I will say, XO?
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to say that.
Louisville safety, Tamarian McDonald is a player worth writing down. This dude freaking hits, and he told me more about McDonald.
That's what I did for the other safety at Notre Dame. I forget his name right now. Aiden Schuler, number 8. Just hits like a missile in a freight train. He's a redshirt freshman last year. He'll be a sophomore this year. Sorry, continue.
I wrote his name down for next fall 100%. Every single time he was like, I was like, who is this kid?
Yeah, who is 8? I'm like, he's just flying around everywhere. Sorry, continue. I got excited.
But the position coach had told me about Tamarian McDonald, and then we started talking about Quincy Riley, Senior Bowl, all that stuff. We weren't able to connect. He, stayed out recruiting, didn't actually come down to the event.
You were sick as hell anyway.
Yeah, it didn't matter. I was useless anyways. But I like Quincy Riley as like an early day 3 pick. If you're looking at, the Bills at 104, like you were mentioning, I think he makes a lot of sense. I know that might be rich for some people because, the mock draft says he's, maybe 180th on the board or whatever the case may be. He kind of reminds me of like Chris Abrams-Drain from last year when he was coming out from Missouri. Has that thinner frame, kind of presents some issues at times when tackling, but he's willing to come up and tackle, kind of like Darien Porter. I think he puts himself in a better position where I felt like with Porter, when watching him, while he was willing, it just didn't feel like he was willing to put himself in a better position. He looked disinterested in lowering his pad level and actually trying to strike the opposition, where Quincy Riley, I feel like, will at least give you that effort. Is it consistent? No, he misses. But again, kind of like
he's more tenacious. I have in my notes for Quincy Riley that he's like got that dog mentality and he plays with a tenacious mindset.
Correct. And he's a guy that you're betting on traits, right? In a similar sense, like ball skills, athleticism. He can high point the football. He shows good closing speed, good recovery ability. And this is a guy that, ran a 4.48, so sub 4.5 time is relatively okay, but only 194 pounds, smaller hands, like 8-inch hands, which can become problematic at the catch point when you're competing and having to press and jam and those types of things. But I like him overall. I think he's limited to a certain degree because I think in zone coverage, he definitely drifts. He gets pulled out of position. The spatial awareness isn't as much there as other corners. But again, we're talking about a player at pick 104. We're talking day 3 targets here. I think he relatively goes earlier than expected. Not like 180 like a mock draft might say or something like that. But I like his skill set. I think he's a guy that probably has better football in front of him if he lands in a place that I think lets him play more like off man, where he can see things in front of him, maybe let him play a little press man because he can do some of the jam and redirecting and things like that. But I think you play him off a little bit, let him close and see what's in front of him, and let that burst to the football and play through the catch point, work to his advantage. And then if he has to go vertical and he's got to high point the football, whether it's on a post or just a go route, whatever, he can do that and recover a little bit. So yeah, that was the guy that I wanted to start day 3 for me on the Bills targets.
My favorite thing about him is the way he plays through wide receivers trying to block him on screens and bubbles. Like he just will go through. It's like he's personally offended that they're trying.
You're trying to block him.
Yeah. And he just plays right through, which is where a lot of like my tenaciousness for him like came from. Like, oh, I like this. And then it bothered me how inconsistent he was as a tackler for his size. I just expected, again, and this is me kind of going into it with a preconceived notion, which is not fair to him, but like seeing the size of like 6'1", 194, I was like, okay, like, and knowing even like Louisville and how they play and knowing what they are, I was like, I don't know, like I think of your boy like Ashton Gelati, and I think like he's a poster boy for like how Louisville's defense plays. So I guess I just kind of expected more soundness in that area from Riley and didn't get it, which disappointed me a bit. But like you said, he's a consideration on day 3. Again, I was going to talk about Parrish in this segment just because it was my hope that he would be there at like 109 and they can go. I struggled with a lot of like the day 3 corners, which again, I think is understandable. Like no one's sitting here pounding the table being like, this day 3 corner is perfect. This and this. I love this. Cause obviously they're a day 3 player for a reason. But Riley is one, yeah, I was intrigued by a bit, although initially a little disappointed because of, again, my own fault, some of my preconceived notions. Who else you got on day 3?
Nohl Williams from Cal.
Okay.
Kind of another press man guy. I'm a sucker for it. But this dude's got ball skills, 6 foot, 200 pounds, 4.5 40. 3-cone drill at 6.97, which is relatively good for a player of that size and has that press man ability. He had 14 interceptions in his career. I think he had 6 or 7 last year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, ball skills are there. I think he reads and anticipates really well. I think when you look at the way when he is in press man, I think one of the biggest issues that I have is like I know I mentioned like the 6.97 3-cone drill, which is good to test, but when you got the pads on, he's not always like turning his hips and flipping and running out of press man vertically as much as I would like him to, because he plays a lot more press man. He's always trying to jam, redirect, and those types of things. But this is a guy that we're talking, again, 3rd round, 4th round, maybe even 5th round. You're drafting, you're developing. He's going to get grabby. He's got to clean some things up, but he's in phase. He's got the ball skills, and he tested relatively well for his size. And I think he had a really good Shrine Bowl, if I remember right. So I like him. I like the development aspect of it. This is a guy that I'm drafting to develop. And if you can get him and you develop him into like a CB2 as a 4th round pick, like Bills Nation, sign me up, right? Like that's what you're doing. Or Bills Mafia, Bills Nation. What am I doing?
Bills Nation. That's your Isaiah McDuffie.
Yeah, that's my Isaiah McDuffie. So yeah, no Williams for me.
Yeah, he was an interesting one for me. Like he had a nice interception against Miami when I was watching that game as a Miami fan, and I hated him at the time. That game was super stressful. That was like one of the first of many games for Miami where I was like, man, this defense is really going to hold Miami back. And then lo and behold, it did. But yeah, the size plays, I don't know if it's I don't know if it's good eyes and processing or film study or instincts or whatever, but just the ability to constantly find himself in and around the ball, like in especially in zone, like be able to jump routes, to fall in line, to kind of make plays out of structure from a coverage standpoint as well. Some of the movement I don't love with him. And
like stiff almost.
Yes. And I think some of that is reflected in some of his measurables, 20th percentile for the vert, 38th percentile for the broad jump. Like, yeah, I feel like there's like whole body stiffness to him.
Yeah.
But again, given the size and frame and physicality, I think some of that is kind of understood. Like I didn't go into it watching thinking like, man, this dude's going to be such a fluid athlete, yada, yada. Like he's built differently and he plays differently accordingly. And so some of the movement worries me a little bit, but given his and I hate using this phrase because it's used too much, but like given his like nose for the football and the ability to kind of constantly be around it, like you don't fall into these turnovers by mistake. I don't know how much that skews the evaluation potentially, but he's another dude, yeah, like on day 3 that I had written down that I'm like, okay, like I wouldn't mind a pass at him. Like I have more of like a middle of the day 3 type of deal than earlier because of some of those concerns. But I mean, the ball production is there. And he played in a defense that was like really mean and kind of did some fun things at Cal, which is interesting. A couple of people have been commenting on this in the chat. And I want to bring them up. What are your thoughts on Cobee Bryant from Kansas?
He was literally the next player I was going to talk about, just like not in detail because I only watched 2 games on him, but like looking at him at what he did like against West Virginia, there's one where he anticipates like this back shoulder. I don't know if it was like a deep curl. It was in overtime, to seal the game. And he just sitting in perfect position. He sinks his hips. He's sitting there. He's patient. And he just jumps the route, takes it to the house, game over. Like he didn't need to score, but just kind of what he did on that, specific play. And then one of the other games, I want to say it was Kansas State, and he's playing in zone, and he like lets number 1 go and cross to the middle of the field, and he takes number 2 up the sideline, and he's just sitting in a perfect position, breaks up the pass. Like, I don't want to say he baits the quarterback and thinking that he's going with number 1, but it kind of felt like he was. And he was a guy that just like always caught my eye. I just haven't had the chance to like go back and watch him, but like through the 2 games that I had studied, West Virginia and Kansas State, he really stood out with his coverage skills and the way he played, whether it was in off man or some type of zone. He really seemed to be patient, fluid, and had the ball skills. I'm excited to watch more. Him, Darien Porter are 2 guys that I'll probably watch within the next week or so. And if I can, I would like to get Jahdae Alexander from LSU on there as well, and potentially the Minnesota kid, Justin Wally. I'm hoping I can add him into the mix as well.
Yeah, but Bryant's a guy who the initial measurables scared me, like seeing smaller weight, like around 180 pounds, and then not being like a flyer at a 4.53 40 and not having the most like explosive, like 10-yard or any other like measurables scares me a bit. I'm like, okay, if you're like thinner or smaller, you got to have more explosion in your game for me, ideally, which he doesn't. But I was watching him and was the other Kansas corner, Mello Dotson, kind of at the same time. I only got 1 game in for both of them. I am intrigued to kind of go with a little more just because of how he plays. I feel like despite having the thinner frame, I feel like there is like a good, I don't want to say aggression or competitiveness, I guess, like to his game with how he plays. And so he's a guy that I need to go back on. I don't love him right off rip, but he's got some flashes that I'm encouraged by. I would say so. So I really got to finish both dudes from Kansas. And then I want to take a look at,
I was going to just say, I did watch 1 game of Mello Dotson. It was Arizona State. There's one rep that he gets beat by, I can't remember the receiver's name, but the quarterback, Sam Levitt, just drops it in a bucket. Like, I think when he goes to like flip his hips and run vertical, he just gives up like a little bit too much separation. And I don't know if he like went to jam and like redirect thinking like the receiver was going to like cross his face or something. I don't necessarily know what he was thinking at that time. I haven't obviously talked to the player, but it was like not horrible coverage at all. And I'm like, he's right there. He's in phase. He's right where he needs to be. He just gets beat a little bit too soon. But he's an interesting player. He's feisty. I thought there were times against Arizona State, like he would come up and make some big plays. So maybe Mello Dotson would be another player I would add to that list, as well as like a guy I would go back and study.
Yeah, I want to finish like these back end or like middle kind of day 3 guys are the more intriguing ones, for me. So I want to get both the Kansas guys who we just mentioned. I watched 1 game of Jahdae Alexander. It's weird because his testing measurables are like terrible. I shouldn't say terrible, but like 7th percentile for the vert, 15th percentile for the broad, a 4.56 40, 17th percentile.
Huh? Maybe I won't watch him.
17th percentile for weight, 32nd percentile for arm length. But then, like, he's in phase and doing some good things, and then he's in position and should make a play on the ball, but doesn't. Again, I mean, day three guy. But Zay Alexander is an interesting one for you. And Jason Marshall from Florida is one that I want to get to as well, to kind of fully finish corner completely. But I think that's like a fair crop of like the day three guys. There's each of these guys are going to have their warts, and it comes down to, okay, do you want to value the production? Do you want to value ball skills? Do you value tackling? Do you value coverage? Are you valuing the traits? Are you like, what traits are you valuing? And then kind of where you go and how the Bills kind of piece it together. I would like them to, in an ideal world, some kind of corner falls and they can scoop one up in round 4. I would like them to double dip. Just Dane Jackson's on a 1 year, and he's right now your corner 3 or your corner 4, depending on what you think of Jamarcus Ingram. And either way, Jamarcus Ingram is kind of unproven. So I do think the Bills need a corner 2 and a corner 3 competitor like right now. So that's why most of my focus was more like, okay, guys that can go between round 1 and round 4, who are guys in the solid, like top 100, top 125 that are corners who can go. But these back end guys, if you can nab somebody in round 5 or 6 or 7, and I feel like there's a lot of potential given kind of the names on the back end. Anybody that we haven't talked about that you would like to mention?
I think I'm good. I mean, maybe Denzel Burke out of Ohio State. That would be another player, but I'm like,
I had some horrible, and this is bad of me,
off, bro.
He had some flat in watching. I watched so much Ohio State tape because of Tyleik Williams, and JTT and Sawyer, and then Cody Simon, who I liked. So I would watch Cody Simon a bit. And then I would just go and watch random games because I love downs. And I just and I wasn't watching for Burke, but I'd watch some like corner get beat horribly or look terrible. And it was always Burke. And this happened like 6 to 8 times. And it just made me like not want to watch this tape at all. And I know I will, but but to your point, like we were talking about this earlier, like there's only so much time we have. And it made me be like, do I really want to spend like an hour and a half watching Denzel Burke right now, given what I've seen? And then it makes me think like, okay, you know what? I'll watch one game. And if it keeps happening again, screw it. I'm not going to continue down the path. But then I'm like, okay, what if I watch that one game and it's better? That means I got to do the full 4 to 6 and I got to evaluate. And it's like, like I just get so much of that.
Yeah, I fall into that all the time. And that's why I'm like, dude, I can only go so far, so in depth, because the board will never end. Like, I love watching film, and I'm getting to like that point right now where like in the next 4 to 5 days, it's back to just watching nothing but film. I don't have to sit here and write my written notes out or my / quick feet / maybe not / notes that I have on my computer. You know, like I'm finalizing everything, and it's like, all right, finally I can take a breath and like get back to watching the film, because I would rather just watch film and put it up here and talk about it and be done with it. But I do love writing it out and formatting it and looking at it, and it's all pretty and stuff. But yeah, there's only so much time.
I got lost. So like, I don't know what, I think it was Friday night, Saturday night. Everyone was asleep. And I was like, I'm going to watch tape for like a little bit. And I was up at like 1 a.m. watching Keaton Crawford, the safety from Nevada, and then Cameron Fabiculanan or whatever his name is, safety from like Washington. I was just watching like random, and I was like, these aren't corners. This isn't helping me with what I got for this week. And I was like, I don't know. They flashed a little bit. This is kind of fun. I'm going to keep watching this. And then like one of the games I watched for Crawford was against Boise State, and Genty did some Genty thing. So I was like, I'm going to watch these games of Genty. And I just went down this like stupid rabbit hole. But those are the fun rabbit holes where you're just like, I'm just keep watching tape. Oh, this guy's sweet. Let me pull up some games for this guy while I finish this other guy. And I say, and I don't even do an official draft guide like you do. I have my positional rankings, kind of like a big board, but yeah, you are a pro's pro when it comes to that. So I don't envy you and kind of maintain that commitment like you do. And yeah, anything else on anything?
No, I'm good, man. We're 16 days away. You know, I can't wait.
Yes.
Excited. Probably going to be doing some Lions stuff for it. So always fun doing that.
I was going to say, tell everybody where they can find your stuff. Plug anything and everything you got, whether it's the line stuff, whether it's the draft stuff, anything and everything, your draft guide, your Twitter, anything and everything. The floor is yours. Plug away.
Yeah, Draft Guys in full effect, I mean, I think I got 26, 25 left to like write out. So pretty much near the final stages of like the hand notes and putting it all back in. And add like the hardest thing is like formatting everything, like typing the name.
Yeah, that's what you were texting me, like
I just did it
screenshots. You
on
were
the
like, bro,
show.
what do you think of the way this looks? What do you think of this?
Yeah, and like I'm a very like I'm not saying I'm a perfectionist, but like if something doesn't look right to me to start, I got to get an opinion,
And
I got to
especially
look.
in something like this where like it sounds so dumb, but like if the presentation isn't great, some people won't even consider the analysis because the presentation doesn't look right. And that's a whole nother like mind F to have to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
And it's just like, I'm not the most tech savvy dude. So like there's some things I'm doing and I'm like, there's got to be an easier way for me to like read this on a spreadsheet or whatever the case may be. And like I just had the mix up with CB4, CB5 like an hour ago. You know what I mean?
You're falling apart.
So it's just like I got to cross check all that. I got to make sure I got, the games listed. I've got my combine pro day stuff, and the pro day stuff's like really tough to find right now. Like it's been the toughest it's been in years.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not just me. I was going to text you about this like the other day. Like I was trying to look up and it was so hard. Like I feel like I was scouring every place to find. And then I'd be like, oh, okay, maybe like this team's pro day hasn't happened yet. I'm like, no, it happened a week and a half ago. Why can I not find what I need to find? Yeah. Man.
Yeah. So, I mean, draft guide's coming. I'm hoping, I mean, like I'm going to have to, I don't know exactly where I'm posting it yet. I don't know if it's going on Fantasy Pros, if it's going on Draft Wire with USA Today or Lions Wire with USA Today or all three, or if I'm just doing a like Google sheet, you send me your email and I'll send you a PDF for free type deal. Cause it's always going to be free. The only thing I ever ask is if you donate to charity, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Other than that, I mean, Lion stuff, I'll be doing a Lion show for Detroit Lions podcast on day one of the draft. I'll do a little Fantasy Pro stuff for some of the analysis that I have for them on day one. And then I'll be doing a lot of day two Fantasy Pro stuff. So, obviously on Twitter or X at Russ NFL Draft. Thanks.
Thanks. No, you are
XO.
XO. Dear
Rob.
Yes. Yeah, man. God, such a good character. Yeah, no, you are awesome. And I mean, just with what you do in general, but especially this time of year, yeah, you are one of my main sounding boards, really one of the very few, again, because I avoid everything like the plague. And yeah, just your analysis and your ability to know how to evaluate players individually, but then also tying it into the actual X's and O's and scheme and structure of football, you are one of the best. So I know everyone already here. Yeah, of course. I know everyone already here pretty much knows who you are. But if you haven't checked out Russ's stuff, get at him on the socials, the content, just everything he provides is top notch and quality. And speaking of top notch and quality, before we say goodbye to everyone here, I'm going to show some love for the sponsor, One Pie Pizza, the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. I know it's not like the only pizza you guys have in Detroit is Little Caesars or whatever. So I know it's kind of a different thing out there. No, I'm just kidding. I said that to you one time. You were like, what? And I was like, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Right.
Yeah, the best pizza in Buffalo, One Pie Pizza. Just what they do from a homemade blue cheese perspective to the sweet sauce on the pie, cup and char pepperoni, the different types of toppings you can have and how they chop them all up and evenly distribute them across the pie. Again, like I keep talking about, they've gotten into catering. They make all these amazing types of mac and cheeses and sandwiches and different things. They are truly like a delicious place for food in any way, shape, or form. But obviously, the pizza is what I hang my hat on. So get yourself some One Pie Pizza. Online menu can be found in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on. They also named a pizza after the show and the brand, so feel free to get some of that. It is absolutely delicious, of course. And they're good people. I talk about it all the time, all the different initiatives and drives that they have, whether it's Toys for Tots or partnering with Roswell to knock out cancer or partnering with the SPCA or the Alzheimer's Foundation or the multitude of other things that they do. They're really good people making really good food. Get yourself some One Pie Pizza. Again, the online menu can be found in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you listen to this show on. I'm going to put up the banner that says Toodles, folks, because we are going to say goodbye now. If you have not already, please, and thank you, drop a like on this video. Likes are the lifeblood of these streams here on YouTube, and they go a sincerely long way towards helping us to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. So drop a like here on YouTube. If you're listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, that is cool too and very much appreciated. Please rate and review and subscribe to Disguise Coverage on whatever podcasting app or platform you're listening to the show on. Turn on notifications for Disguise coverage here on YouTube. Check out the rest of the Cover One channel and all the different forms and fashions of content that we have across the brand. And get yourself some one pie pizza and check out what Russ is doing. And I hope you folks enjoyed this episode. And if you did, tell your family and friends and loved ones about it and how awesome it was. If you thought this episode was terrible, or you hated me, or you hated Russ, which is probably more likely, tell your enemies.
Definitely likely.
And yeah, definitely likely. Tell your enemies and try and ruin their day by making them watch this show. I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. I'll see you when I see you. For myself, Anthony Prohaska, for Russell Brown, this has been another episode of Disguise Coverage. Russ, you were amazing. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you to everyone in the chat, all the back and forth, the engagement with us, with one another. Appreciate you folks. As Noah said, Ant could go till 2 a.m. if he wants, heck, even 5. Yeah, I could keep going, but I got to go to bed. And actually, I'm hungry, and I also got to go to bed to get up for work. But aside from that, I would go nonstop if I could. God bless you, folks. I will see you when I see you. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.